We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. I haven't had any time to see John Wick 3 or Detective Pikachu yet, both of which I very much want to see, but no reviews from me because I haven't seen them yet. I'll get to them.
So, have you heard any reviews about John Wick 3? Because is it as stupid as John Wick 2 was, or is it going back to being not so stupid?
Everyone seems to be more positive on it than John Wick 2. Maybe not quite as positive as John Wick 1, which would be very difficult because that was what it was. But no, it seems to be all very positive for John Wick 3.
That's good, because after that dude got up after getting hit by a car and just kind of walked it off, I'm like, okay, what is he, like Batman or something? Come on. I mean, He's just wearing a suit. He's not wearing armor.
No, this is a boss rush, as we would expect. I mean, that's no surprise.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was set up. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be a boss rush.
Right. All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask us by emailing us a question at avrant.com. Go to www.avrant.com. Leave us a comment there, facebook.com/avrantpodcast, youtube.com/avrant. You can contact us directly, rob at avrant.com. His Twitter is at FirstReflect. See if I can get that frog out.
Yeah, that was getting froggy.
Tom at avrant.com. My Twitter is at avrant_Tom. I'm always surprised when somebody follows me on Twitter. It happens. I figured you're all bots. I mean, I never get any messages, but I mean, I just figured they're all bots, which is fine. Hi, Russians. How you doing?
Yeah.
Welcome to the deserted landscape that is my desert landscape works too. That is my Twitter feed. You will know. There is one thing I want to post on Twitter, or I guess Instagram would also work. There is an advertisement in Sam's. They have they're selling like camouflage shirts.
Okay.
Long sleeve, like rashies, or whatever. I don't know. They're exercise, or they're clearly not for actual camouflage because they're like blue. I guess you're supposed to be, if you were flying, I guess they would be camouflage, but they're not.
There is blue camo. I've seen that. But...
This is really blue. No. I mean, it's quite blue. So I want to take a picture of the advertisement for it because they got this person who, no ill will towards them. Somebody said, would you put this shirt on and let me take a picture of you? And he said, yes.
Okay.
And then they said, can we pay you money so that we could use you in our advertisements? And he would have said the same thing I would have said, was like, hell yeah, give me the money, right? I want to know whoever in this marketing department took a picture, looked at all the pictures of all the people wearing this blue camo long sleeve shirt and said, this is the guy that will sell this shirt, because he is not the guy.
Okay.
I mean, he looks like...
I'm not looking at this image, but I don't...
There is no image. I didn't send it to anybody. I haven't taken it. I'm going to take a picture of it. I feel like it's mean-spirited, and I don't want to be mean-spirited. So I feel like it's okay because no one can see the picture except in my head. But this guy is such a goober. And I'm just like... I'm like, who's looking at this going... Now that I've seen the shirt on this dude, I can see it on myself.
Well, these days, heck, they probably just pulled it off of Pinterest or something, because it's...
I don't know, but it's that the only thing I've been tempted to post to Twitter lately has been exactly that. Like, who in the marketing department said, "Yep, this is our guy"? Because, wow, it's just. I mean, I guess if you're going for like Joe Everyday,
sure,
he is sort of like that, but. We kind of go with like idealized Joe Everyday. This guy is not idealized.
And by the way, for everyone outside of the USA, Tom's talking about an advertisement, because that's how you pronounce that word.
No.
Everywhere except for the USA.
No, we do it right, and all you people are messing it up. So that's fine. Whatever. You can speak to all the people who are still trying to get their English down. Thanks, Rob. All the people who say router instead of router.
It's Route 66. That's all you need to.
No. A route is a path or a road, and a route. Well, a route is also a path or a road. It can't be. So it doesn't matter. See, it works both ways. All right, let's talk about our listeners of the week. To become the listener of the week, all you have to do is support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to www.avrant.com and click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and you can send us a PayPal donation. Now, PayPal has changed, I found out this week, their policies or whatever. Your main PayPal account can no longer send money to people.
Oh, all right.
So if you just have the normal PayPal account, you can't. That's not enough. In order to transfer PayPal money to other people, you have to have a PayPal cash account. So it's like having you have an overall like an umbrella PayPal account, which you can receive the money, and then you can either send it to your bank or send it to your cash account. Now, once it's in the cash account, I hope I can send it to my bank because I sent it all to the cash account so that I could send money to Rob and pay for other things that I need to pay for, like the Libsyn and stuff like that. But very strange.
Huh.
Very strange.
I had not seen anything of that. Of course, I haven't checked much this week, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway,
I think it's the last month that happened. So we want to thank. I don't know how to say this name.
He does have a question later, and he said he pronounces it Jainan. So it's
Jainan. Okay. Jainan, Patricio, Terry, and Thomas gave us PayPal donations. So thank you, I'm guessing, gentlemen, for all of you. But if not, that's cool too.
I believe that's right. Yeah, Jainan, Patricio, Terry, and Thomas, thank you very much for those one-time PayPal donations. We hadn't had it in a couple of weeks, so it's nice to see those roll in.
They all rolled in the same
That's
week.
right. That's how it goes. We go in bunches.
We also want to thank our 81 patrons over at patreon.com. Patreon's a service where you can sign up. It's kind of like a continuing support, a subscription, if you will, so that every month they take money from you and give it to us. I want to thank our 81 patrons over there, including Elango, who increased his monthly contribution and let us know about it. So thank you.
That's right. That's patreon.com/AVRant podcast. If you'd like to sign up, it's an automatic monthly subscription, $1 minimum, as much as you please. We're still waiting for that infinity dollars. And Elango, thanks for increasing your contribution. It's that much closer to infinity dollars. I like that.
That's right.
That's good. And thanks to our 80 other patrons as well.
We want to thank Dan for sending over some gift cards for all of us, Rob, Lee, and myself. So thank you, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, thanks very much. Those were Amazon.ca gift cards, so I'm still converting those to give to Tom and Lee because I don't think shop at Amazon.ca. And I tried. I was like, can I just punch this in at Amazon.com? Because I have both a .com and a .ca account for myself because sometimes I order stuff from the States. But no, it's like, nope, you need to go to the Canadian website to renew this. So I'm like, that's okay. I'll convert it there and send those to Tom and Lee. Thanks, Dan.
All right, and if you can't support the podcast financially, just let us know what you did, and we'll mention you on this podcast. So Miguel told Parts Express that his triplet SPL meter purchase was thanks to our recommendation, and Tom N mentioned to AV Science that we told him about them when he bought his JVC RS540 projector. So thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, Miguel and Tom, thank you very much for talking us up to, Parts Express and AV Science, and congrats on your purchases. That was bad timing, just as
trying to drown that frog. Hold on.
That's right.
Take a sip of water here. I don't know what's going on with me, man. I haven't had. I was gonna say I haven't had any problems talking today, but I got up and told my kid to get in the car. That's so far what I've done today.
That'll do it.
All right. In the news, Disney now owns all of Hulu. NBC shows will remain on the service until 2024, but Comcast, NBC, and Universal also plans to launch their own streaming service next year called Better Than Hulu. And in the NBC shows that were exclusive to Hulu will no longer be exclusive starting next year. So NBC Universal can also cancel most of their Hulu licensing deals starting in 2022. So, yeah. So when are they going to change the name, do you think, from Hulu to Disney Adult?
Yeah, because that is
Disney at
dark,
after dark, or something like that.
What they indicated they want to use Hulu for is all the stuff that is not family friendly, and they therefore would not put on their own Disney Plus streaming service. They intend to just stick over on Hulu. So I don't know if they will change the name, but I mean Hulu is known, so they'll probably just keep it.
I always thought Hulu was a stupid name. What does it mean?
I don't know. I mean, it was 3 of the 4 major networks that began together. But then
did they swing their hips?
I mean, Disney already owned ABC, and then they bought Fox, so then they own 2 out of the 3, and now NBC's like, yeah, you can have our share too. We don't care. We're going off and doing our own thing anyway.
Yeah, they're getting like billions of dollars for it though.
Yeah,
so it's not like they got nothing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, many AVRant listeners alerted us to the news that Sound United has now bought Onkyo and Integra and Pioneer. So Onkyo bought Pioneer a while back, and Integra is like the higher end, the
custom installer centric version of Onkyo. Yep.
And so now Sound United has all of them. So let's see if maybe they have got, can look into the archives of Onkyo and look up Odyssey's phone number and get them back in there. And so that brings 11 major audio brands all under the Sound United umbrella as Onkyo, Integra, and Pioneer Elite join Marantz, Denon Polk, Definitive Technology, Class A, and Boston Acoustics are all owned by the same company. So
yes, yeah. So apparently, a while back, Gibson Guitar Company, they bought like a huge stake in Onkyo, but Gibson has had a bunch of problems lately and been facing bankruptcy and that, so they were kind of divesting themselves of Onkyo, and Onkyo's like, well, we can't keep going on our own, so now they're just owned by the same company that owns Denon and Marantz as well. So they're all just, it's a little Disney-like, isn't it? They're all just kind of falling under. There's Yamaha, that's it. Is Yamaha the only guys outside of them? Sony, I guess.
I guess Sony. Yeah, people still buy Sony receivers. I didn't even. Yeah. I'm always surprised. It's kind of like when somebody says my email is, too hot for you at AOL.com. I'm like,
that's
really? Right. AOL still exists? I'm like, well, the email does. I'm like, wow.
I mean, there's the higher end brands. There's Anthem, there's NAD and that, but
right.
But yeah, for the consumer
brands, I wonder when they're going to start folding some of these companies.
I know,
because there's too many. You don't need. I mean, Marantz. Okay, so Denon and Marantz sort of make sense, even though they're sister products. They sort of make sense to me because one
slightly different markets they're targeted at.
Yeah, one's a little bit higher end. So Onkyo Integra makes sense, but Onkyo Integra under the same umbrella as Denon and Marantz doesn't make much sense unless you start like really stratifying them. So Onkyo would be the entry level, then Denon, then Marantz, then Integra maybe if you could do it that way. But
when Onkyo
Pioneer,
yeah. I mean, Onkyo kept Pioneer a little bit separate by just having the Class D amplification was always in the Pioneer versions.
Right,
but all of the processing and everything, although they kept MCACC as the room correction for Pioneer and had their own Acu EQ for Onkyo. So it'd be interesting to see what they do on that front. I mean, maybe they'll position Integra as the higher end and throw Dirac in there or something like everyone wants them to do. I mean, the world is their oyster at this point. Other than Yamaha, they're kind of on their own with all of these brands.
I would take Pioneer. And unfortunately, I mean, to me, Pioneer and Pioneer Elite makes no sense in this company. I would have them focus on maybe distributed audio or just keep them in cars.
Maybe.
Boston Acoustics is fine, whatever. All right, so the co-founder of Paradigm, Scott Bagby, bought out all of Paradigm, Anthem, and Martin Logan from Shoreview Industries, which is a private equity firm that owned a controlling stake since 2005. Scott Bagby now owns 100% of the three audio companies and will assume the role of CEO. Okay.
Yep.
That's a thing, I suppose.
I mean, he was one of the co-founders, I think, along with his brother, I think. They both were named Bagby, so it looked like a family relation that started
It sounds
Paradigm.
a lot like when Apple pushed out Steve Jobs and then sold, started to allow companies to make, Apple clones. I actually owned, my uncle owned an Apple clone, and it was good. It was a good computer. Yeah. It was perfectly fine. And then Steve Jobs came back in and bought everything back up. And then, I mean, things went really well for Apple after that, a while. But he was also a bit of a tyrant. So anytime I see something like this, I'm always thinking, ugh.
Well, Scott is back. He owns it all now. So whatever going forward with Paradigm and Anthem and Martin Logan, it'll be his vision.
All right, we'll see. The Sony X800M2 Ultra HD Blu-ray player was released. We had high hopes for this model since we liked the X800, and the X800M2 was supposed to just be the X800, but with the addition of Dolby Vision. Unfortunately, it handles Dolby Vision in the exact same, and according to Rob, stupid way as the X700. You need to manually turn on Dolby Vision, and if you do, everything comes out as Dolby Vision signal, so no auto switching there.
Yeah, so, that is a disappointment. We were hoping this would be the pick for something under $500 that does almost everything you could want it to do. Doesn't do HDR10 plus. But we were like, at least you can do the major things, HDR10 and Dolby Vision, plus it plays SACDs and DVD audio discs, and it's $300 right now. It'll quickly drop to $250, just like the X800 did. But yeah, since Dolby Vision just doesn't handle that correctly at all, I'm like, why? How can you release this player and still do it this way? That's baffling to me, but whatever.
More on the Sony front. Sony and Microsoft made a surprise announcement, apparently even to Sony's own PlayStation division. This announcement was a surprise, which is what that meant.
Yeah.
That they will be teaming up to use Microsoft Azure data centers and AI to further develop game streaming and other content streaming devices. Microsoft is preparing to launch xCloud, their game streaming service, and it appears as though Sony will migrate their PlayStation Now service over to Microsoft Azure data centers, which to me just says, we really don't want to work with Amazon
or Google because I mean,
Google,
this is shortly after the whole Google Stadia game streaming service announcement.
Yeah.
And Apple uses Amazon's data centers, and they're going to be launching their own game streaming service. So it seems as though Sony kind of got boxed out maybe from Google and Amazon by the two gigantic tech companies in Google and Apple. And they're like, well, Microsoft is apparently willing to work with us, and we're both gaming companies, and we might as well fend off these newcomers because we're both going to do our streaming gaming thing. So interesting to see Sony and Microsoft ends up being the one who team up. But hey, if anybody can take on Google and Apple, it'll be the combination of Sony and Microsoft, right? So,
it'll be the PlayStation 5 box.
Yeah, why not? They're close enough already.
The PS5 box. That's what it'll be. The PS5 box. The PS Box 5. XPS5.
Playbox Infinity.
There we go. It'll be the infinity sign. And a bunch of people will be like, it's in an 8? Did that 8 fall down? No, dude. Yeah, no. A bunch of movies on iTunes suddenly got downgraded from 4K to HD. Apple says it was a bug, and the affected titles have returned to being available in 4K, but it brought out the buy 4K disc while you still can crowd on social media in a big way. So,
yes, there was
the sky's
panic
falling
in the streets.
I didn't even know about it.
They're
That's
like,
how panicky it was.
They're like, you see what happens when you build a download or streaming only library? They can revoke things on you. They can take it away. They can downgrade it without you have nothing. I mean, it was even titles you had purchased were suddenly downgraded to HD, even if you bought the 4K version outright. And they're like, look at what they're doing. There's
an hour-long video about games as a service that has been making the rounds, and it kind of touches on this whole thing. Whereas, when you pay for a service, if it's not a continuing payment, if it's a continuing payment, then when they stop providing the service, you stop having to pay for it. But when you buy something like a game or a movie over a service that streams, when they shut down the service, you lose ability to have access to what it is. So that, to this person who was making the argument, is fraud on the part of the companies, because they are telling you they're selling you something, and then that at any point in the future they can revoke it.
Yes,
and you can no longer have it.
Yes,
which I saw another video about it, which was a lawyer going through saying, well, he's kind of right and he's kind of wrong, and these are the reasons why. It is another hour-long video, so you don't waste 2 hours of your life looking into it. The reality is, I think that
it's in the user agreement that you clicked I accept without reading. That's
yes, but there are still lots of precedent in the courts about just because you press I accept doesn't mean things. They can put whatever they want in there.
They sure can,
but it's not. It doesn't make it legal. They can put and at any point your firstborn child can be sacrificed to us
exactly
on a whim, and you could click OK, and it doesn't mean they can come by and take your kid. Though if they hit me on the right day.
I didn't think your firstborn was the problem. I thought it was
he can be. He usually isn't, but he can be. He has his moments.
All right.
So, anyways, my big thing for this week was Pandora keeps trying to shove this "Welcome to Night Vale" podcast down my throat.
Okay.
Which is like a sort of funny, sort of scary-ish podcast. So I started listening to that this week. I haven't listened to a podcast other than my own in forever. So. I don't recommend it yet. I'm only 3 episodes in, so I'll let you know if I recommend it. That seems okay. Let's go for comments here. The new CalMAN software lineup became available a couple of weeks ago, including the 4 new $145 CalMAN home versions that include individual AutoCal software for certain LG, Sony, Panasonic, or Samsung TVs. You have to get the specific CalMAN home version for your brand of TV. Yay!
Yes.
The next step up are 2 different about $2,000 professional suites. So Rob tried to ask Portrait Displays on Twitter, which I guess is their Twitter.
Yeah, Portrait Displays is the parent company of used to
CalMAN.
be SpectraCal, but the people who make CalMAN software, Portrait Displays.
What software home enthusiasts ought to buy now if they want to calibrate a projector or a brand TV that isn't LG, Sony, Panasonic, or Samsung? They never replied, though they liked your tweet.
They did. So they saw it, apparently. Someone did.
Good question. No answer for you. But an AVRant listener, Carl, did a better job of reading than Rob's cursory glance. All of the new home versions still include full manual SDR and HDR calibration workflows. So the 4 branding options are strictly about the AutoCal options. So you can use any of them to calibrate a projector or a different brand of TV manually. So it's basically the full suite with some presets for your TV.
That's right. Yeah, okay. If you want to AutoCal, then you got to get the specific brand.
It's not a hamstringed one that only does your TV.
That's
it's
right.
The full thing, but
I mean, they call it CalMAN Home for LG, CalMAN Home for Sony, CalMAN Home for Samsung. So I was like, they could probably market that a little bit better because you have to go.
Somebody out there is going to buy it twice, dude.
You do have to click on the specifications tab. So.
My neighbor came over the other day. He was like, "Hey, Tom, I bought a new TV, and now I can't figure out where to plug in my speakers." So I went over there. It's like 20-year-old Bose cubes with a little bass box that he has shoved in the corner. I'm like, every fiber of my being wants to tell you that
his
this
new
can't.
TV only has an optical output. No,
that's right.
No stereo analog output.
No
anymore.
stereo analog output. So I had to tell him to go to Walmart and buy a box.
Yep.
I guess it worked because he never came back and complained about it. All right, go to the questions here. Damien, after we discussed his Acu EQ setup and trying to manually EQ his subwoofers 2 weeks ago, Damien went and bought a Denon X4400H. He just said, screw it! Get the new receiver.
He did.
Good for you, Damien. That's what I say. He got that from Accessories for Less. He would have preferred the aesthetics of the Marantz SR7012, but Rob pointed out on Twitter that its only feature advantage is having 7.1 analog audio input, so considering the $200 price difference, he'll suffer the looks of the X4400H instead. Dude, I am so 100% on board with everything you just said.
Well, yeah. I mean, by all means, I don't mind anyone who's like, I'm willing to spend more for the looks that I like better. But if you're like, I really could put that $200 towards something else, and the only difference is the looks on the front and a feature that I will never use.
Don't need. Yeah.
$200.
Well, and that's why I said when we talked at the very beginning about Marantz versus Denon, that little feature is a huge difference for custom installers and people who have legacy gear.
For some people, it is a critical thing. And it's definitely worth the difference to them.
Yeah. So you think that it's great so far. It switches HDMI inputs a lot faster. It passes through 4K and HDR, including Dolby Vision. It set up his dual subs independently. He gets to see the volume scale in figures relative to reference volume now, and he's really digging dynamic EQ. He can hear all the details in bass without having to crank the volume. So he's very happy with the purchase and our recommendation of it. So on to his new house. Remind me to tell you the story about my wife this weekend.
If we have time.
And we'll try to squeeze it in. Just remind me. It's a movie thing. It's fast. He's decided, maybe we'll mention it when we talk to Josh again.
Sure.
Is he still speaking to us?
Oh, yes. He's on the list.
All right. He's decided he's going to try to make his existing Pioneer Andrew Jones speakers and dual SB12 NSDU subs work in his basement. After all, he'll be using his new X4400H in the basement theater, of course. So that means he can use his old Onkyo 646 in the family room upstairs. He's decided to go with Rob's preference to use a sub up there, and he'll get a PC2000 for the family room. I think that's a good choice. He likes Tom's suggestion of just using a pair of speakers for the TV viewing and music listening that will be happening in the family room. It's a wide open space, and he'd prefer the look of a pair of towers in there. So what do we suggest? Appear in various grand towers, RBH impression elite towers, clips, since it's such a big room. I'm 100% on board with those RBHs. I mean, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
I find it
those
odd.
Things play loud.
Yes, I mean the Aperion Varus Grand Towers, the Varus Grand 2 are on clearance right now since the Varus Grand 3 are
about to come out. Yeah,
but the Varus Grand 2 on clearance and the RBH Impression Elite Towers, both of them go for $1,750 a pair. So I'm like, wait a second, you're willing to pay $1,750 for a pair of towers for your living room, but you're still going to use the Pioneer Andrew Jones setup in your actual theater downstairs? I mean, just seems a little incongruous to me, but I mean, that's okay. I mean, I would certainly go with the RBH Impression Elites, just like Tom would.
Just so you know, this is what's actually happening here. Just so you understand the psychology of the male buyer. I know that I don't know how best to describe this. What he's doing is he's spending money on two speakers upstairs in order for them to be loud.
Yep.
And so that once he experiences them, he can say to himself, well, these little crappy speakers downstairs are no good anymore. I guess I have to buy new ones for them too. You see, he can't buy the ones from downstairs because he doesn't need stuff for downstairs. He'll put the stuff downstairs, and then he'll have these nice ones upstairs, and then he'll be emailing us and saying, well, I can't live with this anymore. This is it. You're right. It is incongruous.
I mean, he
the whole
could
idea,
go for the non-elite, the RBH Impression series. That's a more reasonable price.
That would be okay too.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like for me, I think I would save the money and go with the non-elites. To be honest with you, I don't think the Veris
then puts you in the exact same price range as like the SVS Prime towers, which would be another good. I mean, you're already going to get a PC 2000, so maybe you order Prime towers at the same time. That's in the $1,000 per pair price range.
Yeah, could.
I mean, if you did look at all that and go, oh wait, I didn't really consider the price points, and I need something under $1,000. I popped over to an Audio Video Unlimited over here, and they had the JBL Stage series.
Yeah,
because I wanted to get a list, and they only had the largest ones, the A190s. So I don't know if this applies to all the other towers, but those are some bass-heavy towers. Like that's not a inherently neutral speaker, which it's not. I mean, that's not the end of the world. You can always cross them over. You can always
cross
EQ
them over
them.
anyways,
but
yeah.
Inherently, those sounded pretty darn bass-heavy to me, man. I was like, oh, JBL, you are still. I know.
JBL. Well, I mean, I would not have expected anything less.
Right.
I'll be honest with you.
And no, that's not a shock by any means.
No surprise there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those would be an affordable choice that they're efficient, not as efficient as Eclipse, but they're efficient. The slightly horn loaded waveguide that they've got on those, and definitely much more affordable. And yeah, you can tamp down their extra bass. Although in this gigantic room, it might not be out of place to have more.
Yeah,
bass
we'll see how much
towers
it bounces around
to a sub. So yeah, there's an option.
All right, here I need to go like this, and then.
So we're on to his basement now.
I know. I was doing something. So the basement room is actually a T shape because of a hallway we couldn't see in the previous photos. So, okay, there's a hallway.
Yes.
It's about 29 feet long and 13 feet wide, so setting the whole room up widthwise, as Tom suggested, won't really work, and neither will Rob's suggestion of a sideways-facing couch on both side walls, with this love seat facing the screen, forming a kind of U-shaped seating arrangement. He's back to considering a couple of rows of seats, no risers. The back row will just have to make do. What do we suggest? And do we know of any bar stools that could go at the back that would actually be comfortable enough to sit on for a whole movie? I've never met a bar stool that I would sit on for a whole movie, and I've been on really comfortable ones.
I mean, I looked through some of the offerings just on Amazon because I'm like, okay, everybody has access to Amazon. And I mean, for me, if I were forced to sit in a bar stool for a length of time to watch a movie, I would want one that has armrests. To me, I wouldn't want just the one where you just have to sit there with your back perfectly straight. I want a backrest and I want armrests. You
gotta have a back. You have to have a back for sure.
You gotta have a back. So I mean, they did have one on offer there on Amazon. They're a little bit spendy. They're about $125 each, which is a little bit high end for a bar stool. But that type of design, I'm like, if anything is going to be moderately comfortable for that length of time, at least it has a backrest and armrests. So we can point you to that.
The only other way I see this working is if he takes and essentially covers whatever those, I guess, are they windows?
There are windows on the left. Yeah.
On the left. If he put the TV on that wall and then put the big couch closest to it and the small couch kind of in the hallway behind him.
Oh, in the hallway?
I mean,
wow, you come down the stairs and walk right into a love seat.
Right into a love seat, baby. Just flop right on that thing. It is weird. That's the only other direction because there's doors.
I mean, I'm still kind of considering maybe a love seat that is facing forward. That still makes sense, and then maybe one of the 3-seater couches on the wall that has windows. Right, so you're creating like a L-shaped seating arrangement. Yeah. I still think that kind of makes sense. I mean, yeah, the people on the couch have to, sort of turn and face the screen, but whatever. That's not going to be you all the time. Most of the time, you and your wife or whomever will be sitting facing forward. But I mean, I can't see having like 3 rows of seats with no risers. I would rather create at least like an L-shaped seating area, and then some bar stools behind that. That's my idea, Damien.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to deal with this shape of room. Because
it's narrow but long, but then it's got an opening on one of the long walls.
That's right, and then and on the back wall. Where's the back wall? Is
the back wall has a door
door
going into the utility room and another door going into a storage room. So yeah.
Oh, there's a bathroom. There's a bathroom. There's room, and then there's
bathroom, utility room.
Front left corner. There's a door that goes outside.
That's right. That's the exterior door that goes outside in the front.
There's just really no very good place to have like a theater set up in here. There's a lot of ways you could do a TV setup as long as you didn't want multiple rows of seats.
But for lots of seats, difficult. But I'd go for L-shaped seating. Yeah.
That's fine. His oldest son will have his bedroom in the basement. Damien's planning to hang a solid core door on that bedroom, but no other renovation to add more soundproofing. Could adding a bunch of absorptive material help muffle the sound a bit more?
Nope, that's not how sound isolation works. I mean,
unfortunately,
I guess if you're reducing an echo, but no, I mean, ultimately,
not significantly,
no,
I would say,
no,
would be the answer to that.
Yeah, never think of, padding, insulation, that type of stuff as being soundproofing, because it isn't. It's not stopping the sound from getting from one area to another. It's reducing some echoes and some reflection, but not preventing sound from moving from one room to another. So, I mean, the solid core door, that's a good idea. Try to make sure that it's one that's sealed, unless that's the only way to get air ventilation into that room, because you don't want to suffocate the poor child while he's not really a kid anymore.
Man, when I was a kid, our doors, we had really, our house was built at a certain year, but then much later they changed the carpets, and the carpets were really, really thick with that, and the door basically was hard to close.
Right.
It was very and during the winter, we would close that door, and my room would just turn into like an oven.
Right.
I mean,
because
or a
the
freezer,
air can't circulate.
There's very little circulation.
Forced heated air coming in has nowhere to get back out. So you got to be aware of the ventilation. But I mean, ultimately, if you're not going to do any type of renovation, there isn't really much else you can do. So
I would just get the sub off the ground.
Yes.
Decouple
your towers too.
Yeah, decouple anything that's touching the ground.
Yeah,
and then. Absorption is going to be good. I mean, it is. I mean, in some ways, it does help a little bit because it will absorb those reflections, so there's less things to bounce around the room.
Literally not an echo anymore. Then that helps a bit. But there's really not much more you can do. So they can't have carpet. All three of his sons and Damien can't himself have allergies. He could maybe accept a rug or two, but definitely not full carpet. The carpet that is already there in the basement has to go. He's planning on vinyl tile with an underlay or possibly high-end sheet vinyl. Any advice about what to do for the acoustics when carpet is absolutely not an option? Well, I see a drop tile ceiling in this basement.
Yeah, I would definitely make sure that you put as much absorption up there as you possibly can.
Yeah.
That would be some of the solution for you. I've had friends that have had the same issue, and they put down those tiles that look like wood flooring.
Okay.
And they put that throughout their entire house. And I was surprised that I
oh, you mean they're a little bit they've got a little bit of texture to them. They're not just perfectly flat? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean they look like it's a tile floor that looks like it's wood flooring.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it has texture and color and everything else, but it's very strange. But anyways, it was they had to do that because their son had allergies, and it's a real issue. Because of their son would just get terribly sick. If he went to anybody's house that had a ton of carpet stuff, and dust mites and stuff like that. So,
but no, I mean, since you can't cover the floor in something that is actually absorptive, I mean, luckily you have a ceiling where you can replace whatever tiles are there with acoustic ceiling tiles. That's what you would want, acoustic ceiling tiles, like you might find in an office building. But there are ones that look a little bit nicer for home, but they are thicker and they are absorptive, and that's what you would want. You could even put some regular type of insulation above those ceiling tiles, within the ceiling cavity itself, which you probably want to do anyway, because this is a theater and you want to have a little bit of sound damping up in those ceiling cavities if you can, and it's easy to install because it's a drop tile ceiling.
Yeah, so I would definitely put as much absorption up there that is reasonable, because, and then of course along the walls and any place else that you can add some absorptive material. You would definitely want to do that.
Yes.
It's just that everybody's main absorptive part of their room is the fact that they have carpet and.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're always trying to aim for about 30% of the total surface area. You've now subtracted the floor, which is one that we can usually use, but in your case, you can use the ceiling instead, so that helps.
Okay. He was hoping that he might be able to switch the entrance door from a left-hand door to a right-hand door so that no longer swings towards the front wall. He's hoping if he does that, he'll be able to use his Andrew Jones towers without the door swinging into them every time it opens. Any take on that? This door is under the deck of the house, so it isn't actually exposed outside. So he wants it. That's weird.
I mean, it wouldn't make a huge difference because it's still swinging.
I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, but
no, it would make a tiny difference. But Not
basically if you just
probably not enough.
grab that little, I mean, you could even take the image that you have and just highlight, you know, the little arc that the door goes
that's
in
right.
and flip it, and you're going to see you're going to get just a little bit more room next to that TV.
A little bit. No,
I mean, it might be enough for you to put the speaker there, but
right.
you know.
Yeah. Infinite Gary actually chimed in, and he was like, well, anything where, you know, as long as code allows it, like, could you actually switch it to a door that swings out to the outside? Is that possible? I mean, it's tougher when it's an exterior door because
Right. Yes.
you don't know about, you know,
there may be codes about that too.
there may be codes, there may be thresholds, you know, differences in the height between the inside and the outside that you have to consider. But I mean, perhaps look into that, because he did say this is under a deck, so this isn't, you know, as far as code goes, it's probably allowed. Usually, if it's fully covered,
right.
But you would have to look.
I've never seen a door swing out.
An exterior door that swings
An
out.
exterior door. I've never seen that.
Unless it's into a garage sometimes, right?
Right, that would be the only time.
That's kind of what I'm thinking with the undercover deck. Maybe it would be allowed, but probably not. Because
I'm guessing not.
If there's wind, it just became a sail. So,
but you know, there's no reason. I mean, you're going to be pulling this floor up anyways, and basically you can take and buy one of those metal stops that attaches to the ground, and it only allows the door to swing so far, and you could essentially do that. Not the little thing that you add to the hinge that puts a hole in your door if you open it too hard. I'm talking like a actual metal stop that they put in like grocery stores and stuff like that to keep from, you know, doors from swinging and crashing into things. And because I had to do that with I added French doors to my house in Jacksonville, and we did that same thing so that it wouldn't crash into the side of the house. Okay. And basically we just attached that right to the wood deck right there. So I would consider that.
Yeah, good job.
All right, I have to scroll down. Do we have any recommendations for high-end cable raceways? He has zero plans to open up the basement walls, and he still doesn't want visible cables and wires all over the place. So he thinks all the plastic raceways he's seen look cheap and chintzy. So any recommendations for something better? So I hear you about not wanting to open up.
He does have a drop ceiling, so the majority of runs to, like, say, his surrounds or probably just surrounds. I don't think he's going to have surround backs with the wide open back there, but you know, at least that can go through your ceiling, right? Yeah. That part's easy.
Opening up exterior or even interior walls can be very daunting to look at, but you know, it's not nearly as bad as you might think it's going to be. So, you know, especially since you have the drop ceiling, you can put a good sized hole right there in that wall up top, and then, you know, fish the wire down with a what do they call those things? It's a fishing. I don't want to say fishing wire, but it's not. It's a
fish tape.
It's just fish tape. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you open up a door, a hole at the bottom or wherever you want this wire to come out. That's the size of a, you know, aftermarket. It doesn't even have to be that big, but basically just a nice round hole. And then once the fish tape where you can see it, you pull the wire through, and you're good. Now you've got a hole at the top, a hole at the bottom. Hole at the top, and on either one, it doesn't really matter. Basically, you can just pull the wire straight through by a cover that you would normally put on top of a you know, like a light switch or something like that. Okay. But this will just have a hole in it, a circular hole in it in the center. You pull that through there, and you screw that right into the drywall. You just make sure your hole is big enough, small enough that you're pulling the wire through, that the screws will still go into the drywall, because it doesn't have to be super secure. It's not holding anything in place. Right. You know, you don't have to put a backer box on this. It's low voltage. So, you know, first of all, I want to say don't be too afraid of doing this. Yeah. If you don't want to do this, I think your next best option, if you're going for I don't want to see these things, is flat wire.
Yes.
That you would just put on the wall, and then, you know, you spackle it a little bit and paint
right over it.
That would be my recommendation. I think you're right about the tracks and stuff. They all look garbage. I've never seen one that looked good. Even if you painted it to look the same and stuff like that, I'm always like, there it is. You can see it right there. We talked about it. It's not invisible. So those would be my two suggestions.
Yeah, so for the flat, self-adhesive, paintable speaker wire, I like Sewell's Ghost wire. So that's one way that you could go there, although that's just speaker wire. So if you're talking about other cables, you might still be looking for some kind of cable raceway to get it, you know, down from your drop ceiling. outside of the wall down to wherever it needs to go. So, I mean, the best ones I could find are over at cableorganizer.com. They've got a wide selection, some that don't look, I mean, it's still a protrusion on your wall. There's no way of getting around that, right? I mean, it has to be that, but at least they have some that aren't just like the super cheap plastic. They're a little bit nicer. They even have some that are aluminum, which you can paint the aluminum too. So, I mean, at least it doesn't look super cheap that way. So that's about the best I could find. I'll point you there. Cableorganizer.com.
Okay. All right. Len, have either of us heard or reviewed any of the headphones that use
otoacoustics.
Otoacoustics.
Yes.
To measure the back wave created by your eardrum and then automatically EQ the sound for your unique hearing profile. An example would be the Neurophone headphones. Len has tried a few himself so far, and he'd like to know what we think of the concept, even if we haven't had a chance to try them. I've never heard of this concept, so I'm trying to look at these headphones.
Yeah, right, and these came up like many episodes ago, but I have not heard them for myself. So the Neurophone themselves, they actually use like a dual driver setup where they have in-ear monitors basically that seal within your ear, but then outside of that there is a over-ear ear cup that has bass drivers in it. So there's like two sets of drivers going on, an in-ear and an over-ear bass driver, and then there are these very sensitive little microphones that are in there as well, and you go through the app and it plays a bunch of test tones into your ear, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to respond to the test tones or anything like that. It just uses those very sensitive microphones to actually measure the back wave that your eardrum is producing, and then it creates a unique EQ for your hearing. And according to the people who have tested it on that, it is indeed like they've had other people use it and then they put it on. They're like, oh, it's not just like surreptitiously in the background, randomizing or putting their, the same EQ for everybody and just being a marketing BS or something. Like, no, it genuinely sounds different depending on whose ears it measured. But I mean, all the reviews that I could read without having heard them myself, the reviews are like, it's not quite 100% there yet. Like, it's not always consistent. You do have to make sure you take those measurements in as quiet an environment as possible, because these are super sensitive microphones that are going on. So if there's any noise in your room while it's happening, it will pick that up and alter the results. I mean, just conceptually, it's an interesting idea, because if you're used to hearing the real world with your hearing, which might have some particular deficiencies or just a non-linear curve that your particular hearing has, and now something is adjusting for the way you hear, now everything is going to sound different than it does in real life.
That was my first reaction to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Is I don't want you to EQ reality to my ears, because my ears are used to the way reality sounds through my ears. So you give me reality and I'll hear it the way I hear it, and that'll sound natural to me. To EQ for my ears, and I may be not understanding exactly what the whole point of this thing is, but to EQ for my ears, let's say that I have a hearing deficiency at, let's say, 5 kilohertz and above.
Yeah.
It starts boosting there. Now everything sounds shrill to me.
Right. Potentially.
Right. I mean, potentially. I'm not suddenly hearing things I've never heard before. To my ears, I'm like, wait, I've heard this before, and now it sounds way too high and
But then again, it's almost acting like automated hearing aids, right? In a way, it's trying to do that. So, I mean, as a concept, I think it's very interesting. I tend to, I mean, again, I haven't heard it for myself, but I tend to believe the reviews that are kind of like, it seems like it's a little bit of a work in progress. Like, this is promising, but it doesn't seem like we've completely nailed it just yet. That seems like a reasonable conclusion that could very well be the case right now. I don't doubt that in particular. So yeah, I think it's an interesting concept.
I'll tell you, I would approach this, if this product was offered to me for review, I would approach this with skepticism, but hope. Yeah. How about that? That's what I would be. That's where I would be on that.
Because I mean, the idea is that hopefully, if you were to play a perfectly linear sweep, that if you had played that perfectly linear sweep through perfectly linear headphones into your non-linear ears, then that perfectly linear sweep wouldn't sound linear to you because of your hearing deficiency, not because of the perfectly linear headphones. Now, if you put on these otophonic headphones, otoacoustic headphones, then now that linear sweep should sound linear to you, even though your ears are not linear, because it's correcting for that. Now, if that's what it does, I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty worthwhile because now what should sound linear actually does sound linear to you. Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Francis on Facebook. Francis has a Marantz SR7010 and dual SVS PB1000 subs. He always used to set the volume dial on his subs to the 12 o'clock position, as most manuals suggest, and then running auto setup. But with Odyssey Multi-Q XC32, it measures his subwoofer levels before it starts with all the speakers' test tones, and it always tells him to lower the volume knobs on the subs. They end up about 7 o'clock. Even after that, the subwoofer trim levels on his receiver are often negative numbers, so it's lowered the subwoofer output even more, correct? Yes.
Yep, I mean, that's what it's done. Lower the gain.
Softer. When he listens, he feels his subs are lacking slam, even though he's only about 11 feet away from both subs in a medium-sized room. So should he just increase the volume knobs on the subs to taste after running auto setup? Should he boost the trim levels instead? Or should he really just trust that Odyssey has set it correctly, even though it sometimes sets the trim values different? And he isn't happy with the results. Well, if you're not happy with the results, then yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, if you're not happy with the results, we've got to make a change.
Yes. So there's a couple of things I would look at. First of all, do you have dynamic EQ on?
That's a big one.
So if you don't have dynamic EQ on, turn dynamic EQ on.
Yes.
Second, do you have your subs? I mean, because you said you didn't tell us where they are set up in relation to you. I mean, they could be both at the front of the room. You could be sitting in the big null, for all we know. Mm-hmm. So, are your subs properly placed in your space? Are you getting a good even frequency response across your seats?
I mean, it's a little bit interesting to me that because it does do this, pre-test tone thing that is just for the subwoofers.
Yeah.
That's what Odyssey does these days. And it says, it's playing that test tone out of one sub at a time. And it says, adjust your volume knob on the back of your sub itself, the physical volume knob, until on screen it reads 75 dB. And it'll, give you a green light, red light. And then it will proceed. And then, so to me, it is a bit interesting that it's done that. And then after the auto setup, sometimes not always, it has further lowered the trim level on the sub output. That's not necessarily a shock because it does EQ and set them in mono after it has done them independently with sub EQ HD. So because of sound wave interaction, you can end up with a case where it's like, well, yeah, individually, they measured at, using pink noise at 75 dB individually, but then when played together, it was necessary to lower them to bring them back to reference level.
I mean, if they lowered them down like negative 6 dB, I'm going to say something's wrong. But if it was like 3,
2 or 3, I wouldn't question it. And most of that, then I would be saying is up to having dynamic EQ because you're probably not listening at 0 dB on the master volume dial, and so losing that audibility and that slam in the bass is what happens when you turn the master volume dial down, because we lose our ability to hear and feel bass much more rapidly than mid-range frequencies, say. And dynamic EQ helps to bring that back into balance. So dynamic EQ is the number one thing to try, but ultimately, if you do try that and you're still not happy with it, then yes, increase the trim level back to at least 0 if it lowered it. I'd start with that. And if you still want more, then you start turning up the volume knobs. I mean, you've got to make yourself happy in the end. Even if it's not linear, even if you measured it and there's a big rise in your bass now, if that's what you want, then that's fine.
Yeah. So checking your subwoofer placement and making sure that that's correct is, I think, key. Dynamic EQ, of course, I agree with Rob as well. And just so you understand, changing the volume knobs and changing the trim level is the exact same thing. I mean, you're not doing anything different.
Increasing the gain in one place or the other. Yeah.
It doesn't really make any difference. The volume knob and the trim levels are the same. So, to me, I would change the trim levels because I have more fine control over that. I know where it was, and I know what I changed it to. Therefore, if I wanted to change it back, I could change it back. So, the volume knobs, once you touch that, you're kind of hosed. So, that's the way I would change it on the trim levels.
All right.
Daniel has a B6 OLED. He varies the content he watches. He does watch a local news station every day, but it's not long enough. It's not as though he leaves it on for that channel for more than 1 news hour at a time, but he started to see burn-in. And it's definitely the graphics from that local news station. So he is just watching the news and maybe a couple times a day really enough to cause burn-in. He was under the impression that varying his content would be enough to protect his OLED. Is there anything he can do? And there's a picture of a red screen here.
And
yes,
some others
you can
below
see,
that. Yeah, the red screen, it's obvious. In the green screen, I'm having a difficult time seeing it at all. So it looks like it's a red graphic. But then he's put up, just like bringing up his picture settings with color bars and that, and you sort of can see it's a little bit tough in the small images that we're looking at on our computer screens, but there are some sort of ghosted images of some graphics in the sort of black sections of the menu that do appear there. So there are these trace things, whether this is actually permanent burn-in or whether this is just bad image retention that could potentially be ameliorated a little bit. We don't know for sure. Now, I mean, the 6, the B6, the C6, and that, those did use panels that were changed a little bit once we moved over to the 7s and now the 8s and now the 9s. There was a panel actual difference in the manufacturing. They increased the size of the red subpixel from the 7s onward into the 8s into the 9s. So the new ones are supposedly even a little bit less susceptible than, unfortunately, your B6 was, but that doesn't fix your problem, of course. But the major thing is that even if you're varying the content, and even if you put it into, say, the cinema mode or the ISF bright room mode or even the ISF dark room mode, by default, the OLED light setting is still set above 40. And when you do that, so if you have the OLED light level, which is akin to like the backlight level on an LCD, is the OLED light level. It raises or lowers the overall light output as a whole.
And his is set to 50 right now. So
is that what it says there?
Yeah, it says it.
So anything above 40, your automatic brightness limiter should be kicking in. If it's like a whole screen white or something like that, the automatic brightness limiter will kick in anywhere above 35, but it's kind of not noticeable at 40. But 40 is kind of the threshold. And anywhere above that, it's actually brighter than the screen ideally would be. So it might have a little bit to do that with these news channels. They often have very saturated, bright logos, which is stupid, and I hate that they do that, but unfortunately it is the case. So it is enough. I mean, you combine having the OLED light set above 40, that you're watching these really super saturated, bright little logos, even though it's not for a long time. I suspect this is actually not permanent burn-in, that if you ran enough of those panel refresh cycles and didn't watch that news station anymore, that eventually, after a few hundred hours more use, it might even itself back out or at least diminish to the point that you really don't notice it anymore. But yeah, there's no like, you can do this and it'll be fixed right now type of solution. There's nothing like that I can offer to you. Unfortunately, I wish there were. It stinks that this has happened.
All right, Cesar. Cesar wants to put some DIY absorption panels at his first reflection points. Should he go with 2-inch thick Owens Corning 703 insulation or 4-inch acoustic foam wedge panels? Which will perform better, the insulation?
The insulation by leaps and bounds. Don't use foam. It's next to useless.
Yeah, so that's easy.
That was a quick one.
Like that, yeah. I honestly don't know why they still sell acoustic foam.
Because people still buy it. That's why.
I mean, I just I guess it technically does something. It's just compared to actual insulation, it does so little.
It's like the people who put literal egg crates on their walls.
I not only do people do that, but I've seen that in movies where people are like, oh well, we're gonna make a sound booth, and they are stapling egg crates to the wall.
Of course.
It's cardboard. What is wrong with you people? Like, get a piece of cardboard and then talk on one side of it and see if people can hear you on the other side.
I mean, people see the vocal booths, the professional vocal booths, and they
have that shape,
egg crate shaped stuff. Yes.
Yeah, which is foam.
It is, but usually it's foam on top of about 6 inches of insulation. Yeah. So it's only for the highest of the high frequencies is what that egg crate stuff is for. Yeah, no. For anybody making your own DIY stuff or whatever, use insulation. Much better.
Yeah. John asks, why don't we talk about Home Theater Direct, HTD? He bought the level 2 tower, center, and bookshelf speakers and paired them with dual clipped sub 10 subwoofers. It's a budget-friendly setup that he landed on strictly by reading internet reviews. He loves them. He'd like to hear our opinions if we have any. Okay, so HTD or Home Theater Direct is a company that sells a lot of different types of speakers.
Although they've
they
shrunk
cut back
that down now. They've shrunk that way down now. Yeah.
I guess it's something that has fallen off of my radar.
Yeah, we haven't looked at them in a while. That's on us,
Yeah. So I mean, the last time I remember looking at them, I mean, it was like if you cherry picked your way through their website,
Right.
you could find gems within a lot of garbage. To be honest with you,
it was a little bit like how Fluence used to be as well. It was a similar type of thing where they had some particular models that were really quite good, and then a whole bunch of other stuff that didn't match at all.
Right. So the speakers you bought are ones that I would be absolutely fine recommending to people.
Yeah, I mean, one of the
2s.
major things was that I tend to look at, okay, what's the flagship offering of this company?
Right.
And the flagship offering, which is still the case, although they probably made some changes to the, running order changes as they often do, but it was their level 3 with the folded ribbon tweeters that they had in there. And those were like one of the least expensive versions of a folded ribbon tweeter, and I was no fan of the level 3s, and those were their flagships, and that kind of just, and this is on me, I'm not saying this is right, it's just kind of like, that's their flagship, and I really don't like them, so they kind of almost just dropped off of my radar too, which shouldn't be always the case. It's good, John, I'm glad that you're reminding us. I'm glad I went back and looked at them, because I still don't really like the level 3s, but these level 2s are less expensive. These are like an entry level. These are going up against, say, the ELAC Debut series, or even the Pioneer Andrew Jones series is in that kind of price class. Nice entry level. There's nothing about this design that makes me, shy away from them. It's just a silk dome tweeter, as you would sort, which is kind of nice for this price range, but nothing particularly special or bad. This is nice, middle of the road, what would be good for an entry level. The veneer that they put on there is a nice finish, front loaded slot ports, which makes it easy to place them. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff about this, and nothing that's really making me shy away from them. They have some on-wall selections too. They've got the 3 series. They got their level 2, their level 3, which are both regular in-room speakers, and then they've got their on-wall series, which look fairly half decent. They look okay. So
it's very hard. Okay, so these are companies that don't necessarily oftentimes send out review samples, just for economic purposes. They're living on a shoestring budget over there.
Yeah.
One would think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly.
I mean, I do
on.
like Home Theater Direct's whole house audio solutions that they're offering, because even though we've talked a little bit more about the Monoprice or the sister Dayton ones because they're even less expensive, if you want something that's easier as far as using the app, because to make the app work on the Monoprice and the Dayton ones, it's like a whole rigmarole that you have to go through with an RS-232 converter and stuff like that. The ones that they sell at Home Theater Direct are a couple $100s more, but they just come with an app that just works out of the box. It's a lot easier setup, and for maybe a couple $100 that could easily be worth it. So I've liked that from Home Theater Direct. I've mentioned that part of their lineup, but the speakers themselves, they've been updated.
Good. I mean, we'll try to remember them. And I mean, we're human like anybody else, and we don't have encyclopedic memories, so occasionally we need reminders. So thank you.
Yeah.
Dawain, I'm guessing is how we say that.
I believe so.
Dawain has a decent-sized room that is open at the back. He doesn't say how many cubic feet of air he's dealing with, so we'll assume infinity. This room is dedicated to being his theater, and he's installed a massive 200-inch screen. He's just trying to decide between getting a single SVS PB16-Ultra or dual PB2000 subs. He's made a cardboard box, so he's certain he can fit the PB16-Ultra. What option should he get? Can I say neither?
I know, right? I'm landing there too. And I was like, well, how come we jumped from dual PB2000s to a single PB16 Ultra? What about the 3000 series? What about the 4000 series? However, if we're considering PB3000s, and of course PB4000s would be even more expensive, PB3000s in duals is like $300 more than a single PB16 Ultra. So I believe price is a consideration. Now, $2,500 is what you're looking at for that PB16 Ultra. And then PB2000s are like, what is it, $1,600 for duals?
It's like, for duals.
So there's a big gap in there, although I can see how dual PB3000s don't perfectly fit because they end up more expensive than a single PB16 Ultra. And that leads me to be like, well, maybe it's time to look for something other than SVS.
So Power Sound Audio would be my first place I would point you towards. But what we really need to know is the shape of the room and the size of the room before we can give you exact recommendations.
Yeah.
I mean, we can give you recommendations based on what you said you were going to buy.
That's right.
But the reality is, without knowing the shape of your room, where there's openings, and what does open at the back mean? Does that mean that there's
a door, a doorway,
stairway?
It curves around into a U-shaped basement. We've seen that before.
We've seen that before too. So it could be open at the back, and then there's that's L-shaped, and then it goes around the corner and up some stairs and into the great room upstairs.
You've seen these great rooms where the second floor is open at the back. So yes, it could mean many different things open at the back. Yeah.
So give us a little bit more information, and we can give you very specific recommendations. Because even with us almost always recommending dual subs in a very strangely shaped open room, a lot of times we're going to say go with a single sub and then see how it sounds before you start buying that second one.
But making some more very generalized assumptions that you will benefit from dual subs, because you very often will, and that you have this open space. So we're kind of like PB2000s may reach their limits. It's entirely possible. We can look at these alternatives to SVS where you can get 4,000 series output levels, but at a lower price. So that would be like Power Sound Audio's. Yeah.
Those 15-inch ones?
Yeah,
is
the
the
V1510, which a pair of those would be $2,100. So if $2,500 for a single PB16 Ultra was acceptable, $2,100 for a pair of V1510s from Power Sound Audio, I would think is acceptable. Now, right at that same price point would be Shu's VTF-15H Mark II, which is very comparable, and so they're almost identical price, almost identical size, almost identical output levels. So if you like the triangular port look of the Shu one, then there's that. If you like who
takes the grills off on these things?
I don't know, but I mean, it's kind of just the looks of the front that differs between those two. Now, Rhythmic would be in this mix too. They've got their FV15HP, although that one is $1,400 individually. That includes shipping, so you're back up to the same sort of price range as a pair of PB3000s.
Right.
Although the FV15HPs play more like the output level of the 4000 series. So there's still a value, but that would be more expensive than a single PB16 Ultra. The other one in that same price range again as the FV15HPs or dual PB3000s is Monoprice's 15-incher, which is a really nice subwoofer with the full DSP control that can never be overdriven, but it's $1,300 each with free shipping. So again, the pair of them would end up being more than a single PB16 Ultra. So
$100 more.
$100 more for that really nice Monoprice 15-incher. Yeah. So I mean, the options here for sure. But if you're like, it's got to be less than $2,500, like the Power Sound or the Shu.
Yeah,
I'd easily point you.
But honestly, we don't know that you need this much output. You've told us that you need this much output because of the subwoofers you chose, but we may look at the size of your room and say this is not enough output, or you may say this is way too much.
Right.
So let us get back to us with some more details, and we'll be more specific. Jonathan asks, what do we think about Bose frames? They are $200 sunglasses. There's two styles, made by Bose, with tiny speakers built in the frames near your temples. They claim you hear rich, immersive sound, while others hear practically nothing, because that's how sound works.
So I enjoyed a review that was posted, and he's like, I was in my office at my cubicle, and I turned on these Bose frames. So he's wearing sunglasses inside, but okay. Turned on these Bose frames and was listening to some music at a level that I found comfortable in my office cubicle. And then I went to my cubicle mate and I said, hey, can you hear these? And they're like, hear what? I don't hear anything. So, okay, that was working. Then he said, then I went outside and I couldn't hear anything even though they were playing anymore, because these don't block your ears in any way, right? These are just sunglasses sitting on your head. So he had to turn them up almost to full volume. And then he brought them back inside, and he said anywhere above 75% of their volume, everyone around me could hear what I was hearing. So there's a limit. It's maybe not as bad as just playing the speaker on your phone out in public, like increasingly
I saw somebody
more people
doing that.
do.
I saw somebody walking down the street, holding their phone up like it's a plate, and like they're a waiter delivering it to your table, and then talking into the bottom of it. I'm like, dude, put it on your face. Just put it on your face so that you look like a normal human being. This is worse than the Bluetooth ear.
You're right.
thing.
Just hold it up to
This
your ear
is
like
so
you're making
much
a phone
worse.
call. But yeah, I don't like hearing other people's racket going on. That's why I hate AirPods. I'm like, no, don't wear AirPods. They leak more sound out than they let in. So maybe these, who knows? These sunglasses are probably better than AirPods. But no, don't wear these outside.
Yeah. Anyways, aside from their styling and having speakers built in, their big feature is that they work with Bose AR, which is augmented reality. This is Bose, their audio-first approach to augmented reality. At the moment, it only works with iOS, because of course it does. Although Android support is in the works, you match Bose AR hardware like the Bose Frames or certain pairs of Bose headphones with the Bose AR-enabled apps to get audio alerts, spoken directions, golf tips while on the course, because
it's Bose.
It's Bose. Or interactive games. What's our take? Whatever, dude. Shut up. I'm never buying these things. That's my take. This is stupid.
I don't think these look particularly stylish.
I don't mean... I bought sunglasses that were recommended to me. I took a 16, 17-year-old daughter of a friend of mine shopping with me. The mom was there as well. We were all buying sunglasses, and she's like, oh, those look great on you. I'm like, all right, since you're young, I'll take your word for it, but these look dumb. So now I have dumb sunglasses that I wear.
Thick side frame going on, which of course it would have to be. I find they've got one button. It is under the frame, like if you reached up to the front.
So are the speakers those three little things? Is that what they... Or is that the charging port, or what is that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because they said it's a proprietary charging connection too.
Oh, good.
So if you ever lose that cable, no, there's these little speakers that are like just in front of where the ear would be. These little speakers. So yeah, no, I don't like these. I don't like these one bit.
I'll be honest with you. I really wish that Google Glass hadn't gotten leaked as early as it did, because Google Glass to me was something I was really excited about. I know a lot of people hated it, and they're talking like controversy. You can't be filming me as we're walking around, dude. We make pinhole cameras that you can put that look just like buttons. Shut up! You're getting filmed all the time, anyways.
Yes, you are.
What are you complaining about? But this is like a huge step backwards from that. I can't remember the last time, and I get very irritated when my wife uses her phone to navigate because she keeps the voice assistant part of it on.
So it talks.
I'm like, shut up! I can see. I do not need you to tell me every 200 feet that I got something coming up here.
But they said this one won't tell you turn right in 250. Well, I'm used to saying meters because I'm up here in Canada. But instead of telling that, it'll say turn right at the McDonald's. Because, these are for people who buy Bose. You can't follow distance directions. You need landmarks.
Yeah, they also play golf where they, I guess, you turn right at the tree, I guess is what they're going to say.
We recommend that you use a 9-iron. You're like, well, I think I'll use a sand wedge because you didn't, your GPS wasn't accurate enough to know that I'm in the sand trap right now because I use Bose.
Whatever. I mean, they may be the coolest thing ever. I have no idea, but, Clint used to have some glasses that were a long time ago that were similar, except they had like little ear, they
drop down and come into your ears.
Yeah, that you could push into your ears. And the problem is that the glasses go out of style a lot faster than anything else.
Yes.
So you end up with these glasses that are a couple $100 that have some sort of speaker coming out of them, and now you're like, I can wear these stupid glasses. Like Rob said, well, they're sunglasses, so you can't wear them inside. Unless they have transition lenses.
No, they don't. They're very basic lenses. There's a third party that makes prescription lenses for them. You can pop them out and put those in.
Miguel on Facebook. Miguel already has an Integra DTR 50.4 receiver. Hey, man, that might be a collector's item pretty soon.
Right?
So you might want to hold on to that.
Wasn't owned by Sound United back then.
It was the sister model. We know what it is. To the Onkyo 818. So it was one of the first receivers that was offered Odyssey Multi-Q XT32. That was back when Onkyo and Integra were like on the cutting edge of things, and I used to recommend them all the time. But it did not include sub-EQ HT, probably because it wasn't out yet. And it has HDMI 1.4 ports, which can technically handle 4K resolution, but doesn't have HDCP 2.2, so it's effectively limited to 1080p. It does Dolby True HD and DTS HDM Master Audio, of course, but not Atmos or DTS-X. And that's also, of course, because this is an older receiver. So Miguel is considering an upgrade. He's mostly looking at the Denon X3400H. That will give him the sub EQ HT that he's been missing. And he'd also be able to use the Odyssey Editor app, which he cannot do right now with this Integra because it's very old. He also spotted that the target curves in the Denon are called reference or flat, while the target curves in the Integra are called movie or music. So on the Odyssey front, will he get any great difference as far as the audio EQ goes? I mean, you'll get the sub EQ, but other than that, I think it's pretty much the same. I mean, right? Than that,
I have sub EQ HT and I have 2 subs and I don't even use it because I want a mono signal being sent to my subs, not an independent signal. So
and you can still do that with that. You just use a Y splitter. It's not that big of a deal.
Well, absolutely, but it's just, I mean, is he actually effectively getting anything strictly on the Odyssey front? So to answer the reference versus flat as opposed to movie versus music, they're the same thing. They just changed the names. For whatever reason. Yeah, the movie curve is the same as the Odyssey reference curve. The music curve is the same as the Odyssey flat curve. So no difference there. So
I'll be honest, I can't hear a huge difference between those two things. I think
between those two, yeah.
Yeah, I think I keep mine on flat just on general purpose.
But I mean, sub EQ HT is the only thing. So I mean, first of all, we don't even know for sure he has 2 subs. So if you don't have 2 subs, you definitely aren't getting any difference. If you do have 2 subs, I still end up wanting it to output mono anyway. So, I mean, I can't say you really should get an X3400H just based on Odyssey differences because you already have XT32.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. He doesn't really care about Atmos, and he's visually impaired, so 4K is not important to him either. But something that does appeal to him a lot is the Denon app, which allowed him to set up his receiver with the app in a screen reader, as opposed to having to use his limited eyesight with his Integra, which gets tiring. So, do we think there are enough upgrades offered by the Denon X3400H to make it worthwhile for him? He hasn't treated his room with acoustic panels yet, so if he doesn't buy the receiver, he'll spend that money on Acoustimac panels instead. His speakers are all Clips reference Premier, and he's worried about amplifier wattages, obviously. What do we say? Should he go for the X3400H? No, I guess this is when the cheapskate in me says, if you don't care about Atmos,
right,
and you don't care about 4K,
right,
and you don't care about HDR, and you don't care about and you're not super worried about the second sub, whatever. I don't see that you're getting a lot of benefit.
I mean, the
here.
only benefit is the app, which in his case is quite an important thing because it allows him to more easily set things up.
Yeah, but it's already set up.
But it's already you've already set up.
You've already done it at this point, right?
How much more does there need to be changed? I mean, yeah, if you're not going to do, I mean, the Atmos version in the X3400H is limited to 7 speakers max anyway, so it's 5.2.2, and we'd want you to get something that can do 4 overheads if you're really going to get into Atmos. But he doesn't care about that. But he doesn't care about that.
So if you got the panels, the only thing you'd have to do is rerun Odyssey,
right?
Which you've already done. I mean, which it should be easy to do because it's quite literally just press OK until it stops.
Usually, yeah.
Physically
plugging in the microphone, setting the microphone in all the positions.
Yeah. I think that you should get the acoustic panels.
Yeah. For me, in this instance, it's really hard for me to say you should get the 3400H. If the use of the app is alone worth it to you, then that's your choice. But that would be the only thing. That's the only thing you're getting.
Yeah. So Jainan, he was one of our donors from earlier, a long-time listener, first-time question asker. He asked, "Thank you for the hours of informative content." By the way, that's not a question. That is a statement, and you are welcome.
Yes, you are welcome.
Jainan and his family are moving from a condo to a new construction house. It's an exciting time for them. He's going to have a dedicated media room where he can install a projector and a screen and a full Atmos system. That is a priority for him. I feel ya.
Yes, you have come to people who can commiserate with that.
My wife is her friends are all like, we got to move out of the flood zone because we live in the flood zone in Florida. We got to move out of the flood zone. We got to live someplace else. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, well, as long as we move. My wife's like, well, we're not really ready to move yet, but when we move, we got to, maybe we should go look at houses. I'm like, we're gonna have a home theater. She goes, I don't know if we're gonna need that. We're gonna have a home theater.
All the people, how
this is not optional.
How does she not know this about you at this point?
Do we really need to have? I'm like, okay, you want to have the TV in the kitchen because that's where I'm going to do. And she's gonna be like, oh, believe me, I know how to push her button so that I end up with my theater. I'm getting a theater. He's going to have a dedicated media room where he can just install a projector and a screen and a full Atmos. I already said this. But for the moment, he has questions about what to do in the family room.
Yep.
Okay. So new construction houses all have a similar design. The family room is wide open, including to the upstairs second floor. There's a pre-wiring on one of the walls for TV and LCR speakers. The other side of this wall is the master bedroom. So Jainan thinks it's silly to have made that party wall the location for TV and speakers, but at least they didn't pre-wire everything to go above the fireplace, which is over in the side corner. Okay, so there's some wires that down on the floor. They're to the right of the fireplace, to the left of the fireplace, with the fireplace is in the corner, in the front left corner. To the left of that, there's doors to the outside. It's hardwood floor, stairs upstairs to the right. Jainan plans on using Golden Ear Triton Towers, Super Center XL, and Aeon 2 bookshelf surround speakers that he already owns in his future dedicated media room. But he would like to install the 60-inch Samsung Plasma that he already owns in his family room. It will be wall mounted on this pre-wired wall, and we would still like to have a 5.1 sound system in the family room, so he's looking for suggestions that will be aesthetically pleasing and still perform well. How much sound is going to transfer through the family wall, through the wall from the family room into the master bedroom? Would the answer change depending on whether he uses in-wall speakers, on-wall speakers, or on-walls that use a swivel wall mount? So wait, so there's no option for not having on-wall speakers or in-wall speakers here.
Aesthetics are this big concern, and it seems like floor-standing speakers, whether they be towers or stand-mounted speakers, are just not in consideration at all. It's going to be on the wall or in the wall.
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of in-wall speakers. I mean, if you had in-wall speakers with backer boxes, and then you padded the inside of that
still making a big old hole in that wall.
That's true, but I mean, I know that it would make a significantly amount of difference in the amount of sound transfer that you're going to get, because you're still screwing straight into something. With the mount, and that mount is going to be, there's going to be sound transmission into the wall and that sort of thing. So I don't know that it's going to make a huge difference. I guess if you wanted to play it safe, wall mounted. I don't think that swivel versus whatever else you might have is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's a damped wall mount.
I mean, you put a shelf, and then you put something to decouple the speaker from the shelf, maybe. But that'd be one way of kind of trying to alleviate some of this. But
and then you aren't limited to on-wall only models, because it's anything that can stand on a shelf.
But I don't think that's what he wants.
I don't think that's what they want.
I think he really wants in-wall.
I mean, I think they want in-wall speakers, but they're like, if in-walls are going to be a problem, then we'll go on-walls, because there are some nice, slim, sleek-looking on-walls that want. I mean, there's going to be a TV.
So this is the thing that I always think about when I get questions like this: who's watching TV while you're sleeping? Who's listening to music in this room while you're sleeping? When does the sound transmission become an issue? Because if the reality is, I'm up the latest, and my wife goes to bed before me, but the kids go to bed before her, and I'm watching TV, are you going to be watching it up here? Or are you going to be watching it down in the theater? And if you're watching it up here, is that a huge deal for you to turn it down because your wife is in the
I'm
room?
hoping that since they decided in the architectural design to put the master bedroom on the other side of the family wall room, that they at least made that a fairly beefy and sound isolated wall. Hopefully they did that. I mean, I'm just not in favor of punching big holes in walls where it can be avoided. If you're like, in walls are the only way to go, then yes, it's got to be something with a proper backer box on it. Definitely don't just have the back of the speaker firing willy-nilly into the open bay. That would definitely be worse than just an on-wall speaker. My preference is to go on-wall here, but yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but to be safe, on-wall would be a safer option.
You haven't made a hole in your wall. Yeah.
So he knows and likes the characteristic sound of Golden Ear speakers. They offer both in-wall and on-wall options. What we recommend more highly? On-wall, we already said that. And do we think there's a psychological component where being able to see the speaker, even if it's on-wall, contributes to expecting better audio quality? For you. Not for anybody else. We're literally... Okay, so I finally got to bring up my wife. So this weekend... we kids went to bed, and we were sitting here. My wife walked out of the room, and I was flipping around Hulu waiting for it to come back, and I saw A Quiet Place is streaming on Hulu right now. So I turned it on. And then she sat down, and I didn't tell her what it was. And she started watching it, and she got invested in it, and the kid gets, spoiler alert, I guess, that something happens to the kid at the very beginning. And she's like, is this a scary movie? I'm like, oh, it's a little tense. So we watched a little bit more of it, and then it got a little tense. And then she said, okay, let's watch this later. I want to see the rest of it, but not right now. So it was late on a Saturday. Let's watch Saturday Night Live or something. I'm like, okay. So I kind of low-key got her interested in the movie. She doesn't like horror movies. Low-key interested in the movie because of this. So we're watching this movie, and about halfway, so we watch it from the very beginning. I have it on Blu-ray, so we watch it on Blu-ray. It has Atmos. Somebody complained the other day that Atmos is only on Ultra HD 4K videos. That's not true. You can have it on Blu-ray as well. So the Blu-ray has the Atmos soundtrack, and we're watching this thing. About halfway through, my wife stops the movie and says, "Listen, you got to tell me if this is going to have a happy ending or not. Yeah. Because I'm not watching the rest of this movie if everybody dies at the end." I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I won't spoil it, but she did and watched the rest of the movie. And at the end, I'm like, this is why we have these, because a lot of this stuff, there's sounds going on overhead. I'm like, this is why we have these speakers overhead, so that we get that good sense of the sound coming from overhead. She goes, oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
So this is, my wife literally can see the speakers on the ceiling. Yeah. All the sound is coming from the ceiling, and she didn't notice that the sound was coming from the ceiling. So when you say, does seeing a speaker make that you think that there's better audio quality? The answer is for you, because you care and you are the only one. In fact, if I walked into your house and I saw your speakers, I would not necessarily care one way or the other, or be influenced one way or the other, unless I saw your speakers and knew their brand, expected a certain amount of quality out of them, and then saw that you had done the necessary work to make the room good. I was just in the house the other day, and they had B&W speakers set up like somebody threw them up in the air, and that wherever they landed is where they went. They're facing like odd directions. The front two speakers, like they were both towed to one side. So
nice.
It's like, what is going on in here? And so I'm like, okay, so no. I don't think that. We already said on wall. Does he want specific models? I guess you can probably figure out what model.
Well, I mean, the Golden Ear Supersats, I like the Supersats. I mean, my one thing about them has always been, they've got that characteristic Golden Ear sound. But if you already know that you like that, I've got no reason to steer your way of that, which answers the next question. Yeah.
All right. Are there other slim, attractive-looking speakers you ought to be considering? I actually think yes, and there's lots of them out there. This is what I think people do, and by people I am including myself. We find something we like, and I am famous for doing this at restaurants. I find a dish I like at a restaurant, and I will order nothing else, because I'm afraid that if I get something else, I will both. I'm afraid I won't like it as much as the thing I normally get, which is normally the case, and I'm also afraid I'm gonna like it better than what I normally like, because then I won't ever order the thing that I really like right now, and then I won't have that anymore, because I'll be ordering this thing I'll like even more, which sounds stupid, but that's exactly the case. I mean, that's my thought process. I think a lot of people, when they say to me, I like the sound of, I own these speakers and I like the sound of the speakers, what they're really saying is, I don't want to find anything better, because I don't want to have to get rid of my current speakers and then get something else.
Might not be the case, though. He might have done a lot of auditioning and landed on
Could
these,
be.
So.
Could be. So I think that this is an opportunity for you to get a different speaker and a different brand of speaker, or type of speaker, and have a different sound in your house than the sound that is downstairs. This is going to be a non-optimal location.
It is, yeah.
And
you're going to want some acoustic treatments in here, which is getting to the last question. But yeah. I mean, I land on the other side of this. I'm like, if you know that you like the Golden Ears, I like the Supersats, so I wouldn't steer you away from them. I'm like, that's a good choice.
There's KEF speakers you could be looking at. There's RBH speakers you could be looking at. There's tons Revel. Of RBH. There's Revel that you could be looking at. There's lots. So, you do you, man. If he goes with the on-wall Supersat center, he can mount it essentially at ear height. Another option would be to go for the regular center speaker sitting on a shelf, but since the regular center is larger, it would have to be below ear height. The on-wall center doesn't play as low, and would need 100 to 120 hertz crossover. So which is better? Higher crossover but positioned at ear height, 80 hertz crossover but not at ear height. I mean, it's on the floor, and even if it's on the floor, I don't care. I don't think it really matters. I mean,
no, I mean the 100 or 120 hertz crossover, that no problem. It's really not an issue.
The question you should be asking is, can it play loud enough,
right,
to hit something near reference E volume at where I'm sitting? That's the only question that really matters in this case, because they are, as far as tonally match with the other speakers, that should be fine. And the only thing I would be worried about is when it can get loud enough. And if the smaller one can't get loud enough, then get the bigger one.
But if the SuperSat left and rights are going to be okay, that the center is the exact same size, there's the smaller model and the larger model. And I'm thinking in this room, you're definitely going to want the larger model for all of those positions. But I mean, I think, yeah, just looks wise and all that, I would go for the SuperSat center because I'm not worried about the crossover at all.
Yeah. If he goes with a SuperSat on walls, they will definitely need a subwoofer or subwoofers to help fill in the low end. He'll have a dedicated media room for a fully pressurized lower than 20 hertz experience, so aesthetics and a good blend are more important in this family room than reference volume output levels of the deepest possible extension. What would we recommend? I mean, there's lots of inexpensive subs that we can look at, smaller subs that would be cheaper, that we could be looking at. The RSL Speedwoofer.
RSL Speedwoofer 10S would be like the entry, It's a nice little $400 10-inch sub.
I mean, if you want a small footprint but don't mind a little bit taller, any of the cylinder subs from SVS.
Yep, cylinders would be a good choice here.
I mean,
the other one is,
box,
I mean, if it's just got to be a small, compact box, maybe even in a white finish, depending on what the rest of your decor is.
Right.
SVS now offers the SB2000 in a white finish.
There you go.
Which is a new offering that they have, is an SB2000 in a white finish. So, SB2000s. I mean, this room size, you probably won't be hitting full reference volume with them, but that's fine. You're aware of that. PC2000s, if you want the most output with a nice small footprint, but the cylinder design. And if you just has to be cheaper than the RSL Speedwoofer.
Yeah. So, any other considerations, suggestions we would have for this type of family room? It's tiled, so I would get, or hardwood, whatever that is. So I would rug with a pad that's as thick as you can manage.
Absorption anywhere you can put it, because I guarantee
everywhere
this room echoes when it's empty, and even with some furniture, it's probably still going to echo.
Yeah. So room treatments are your big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would not be looking at dual subs in this room. I mean, it's just going to be too open and too hard to manage. A single sub placed, hopefully close-ish to where you're sitting, so that you get some of that tactileness out of it.
Although maybe he ends up with like a sub on either side of his couch, almost like end tables or something.
That would be okay. But room treatments and absorption is going to be the
and in this case, we're not worrying about reflection points. We're just like literally anywhere you can put absorption in here, because I swear it echoes.
Yeah. Infinite Gary, last week we said how we vehemently disagree with SVS about recommending having two subs on the front wall. Gary's sure we'd agree they've got smart people leading the way over SVS. So what's their reasoning for making that placement? Sometimes it's just easier to agree with idiots than it is to...
Oh, come on. Don't use that word. God.
Uninformed. Uninformed people. Basically, a lot of people want to see that. That's what they want to see.
A lot of people want it. I mean, they post oodles of pictures on all their social media where they're like, I got
on top
subs,
of that,
and here they are both at the front.
Just from the perspective of somebody who's trying to take a picture of two subs in a room, having them both up at the front, you can show two subs in a room.
Looks all symmetrical.
It's very hard to take two subs that are on opposite corners or opposite walls and say that you've got two subs in this room. It's very hard to show that in a picture. So there's that goes along with it too.
But I will say, over in SVS's own Why Go Duals article, they have changed the order, right? So they're saying, here's Why Go Duals, and then they're like, where to place them. And previously they had it in order, and it was never a ranking. but
Right,
it sort of read
right.
that way because it was
Right.
numbered from 1 through 3 or 4 or whatever it is. And now they have changed that. I mean, this was a while ago that they did, but they've changed it to our recommendations of diagonally opposite corners or the midpoints of opposing walls. Those come first, and then if you can't do those, then okay, maybe the front 2 corners, or in between your tower and your center on either, flanking your center speaker. That's still
It's
better.
very hard for me to believe that people haven't heard. I mean, it's anybody who's looking at dual subs, I have a hard time believing that they haven't at least come across this this placement idea.
Which, it is kind of interesting because SVS, if you ask them about dual subs, they will send you those Harman white papers like lickety split. So
Right.
they're right on that too, which very clearly on those Harman white papers, they're like, yeah, the midpoints of opposing walls, that's where you start. That's
But
where
I
we
mean,
want you to put
from a
them.
company standpoint, or like we AVRant, it disagrees with that placement, but they have a lot of customers that want to have that placement
And
or
have
are planning to
reported
have a
back
placement.
how happy they are with it.
So who are they to alienate those customers
Right.
when they're paying customers? So, it's easier for them and smarter business-wise for them to say, this is an okay placement, even if they have now ranked it last, in their thing. And even if they don't, when you're talking to them, even if they don't suggest it, they suggest other things first, it's on their website in print, it makes more sense for them marketing wise to make sure that they have that on there.
And we still say, yeah, if that's your last resort, at least, and this is the thing, the SVS can now tout, hey, we have fully variable phase on every model of subwoofer we sell. We don't have a single model that only has a polarity switch or doesn't have fully variable phase. All of ours do, so you can use that if they're both placed up front. And we agree with that. So, yeah. That's that.
It just it's ingrained in so many people that's where they want their subs to be.
Absolutely.
And occasionally on this podcast, we'll have somebody say, "I have both my subs up front and they sound great." I'm like, "That's good. They sound great." And I don't necessarily believe you, but I'm gonna be. It can. I mean, it is theoretically possible that you got the one in a million room where that placement sounds good.
Or you're just sitting in one seat and you never sit in any other seats where it's a roller coaster, and your seat sounds good, just like.
Or you're used to the roller coaster, which I think is more often the case. So Gary asks, any thoughts on the Outlaw Audio Model 2200 or 22 whatever monoblock amplifiers? I think that no one needs a monoblock amplifier for the most part. I think they're silly, but I imagine that whoever built them for Outlaw did a very good job.
Yeah, they don't have the spectacular signal-to-noise ratio that I might hope for. I mean, if I'm going monoblock, the whole idea is you're isolating everything, right? That's
right.
why.
That's the whole idea.
Why else would you get a monoblock but to isolate everything? If you're going to isolate everything so that there's no chance of crosstalk now with a monoblock amplifier, I also want a killer signal-to-noise ratio and a zero noise floor, and they don't quite have that. Now, any monoblocks that do tend to cost more. These are $400 a piece. They got this big pancake-style toroidal transformer, so that's very flat, so that they're not very tall. So you can stack them up, and they low heat and all the rest of it.
Were they Class D?
No,
they're not.
Class
They
AB.
can't be Class D. Yeah.
So I think they're solid as all get out. The signal-noise ratio on the noise floor is not bad by any means. It is good. It's just, I'm almost like, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be stellar, and they don't quite reach that level, so I'm a little bit less than completely gung-ho. But if someone got it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a perfectly
These aren't
solid
new, are
amp.
they?
Oh no, these have been around for ages.
I was going to say, I think I remember looking at these like
Yeah.
15 years.
Oh yeah, these have been around for ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a completely solid amp with lots of power, oodles of power.
Yeah.
Drive anything.
Again, I can see almost. I just love when you see somebody who's got their big tower speakers that have 3 sets of binding posts back there, each one hooked into a monoblock amplifier, and every time they turn on their system, the lights dim in the neighborhood and everything. I'm like, all to put out 1 watt.
Most of the time.
Patricio is looking to upgrade to a 5.1.4 Atmos configuration, but he noticed an inconsistency when looking at Dolby's own speaker layout diagrams. Really? Shocking. In the overhead view, the top rear speakers appear to be behind the surround speakers, but in the side view, the top rears appear to be in front of the surrounds, and surrounds appear to be quite far behind the seats. So I'm looking at this.
He is correct. There is no question that when you look at these two different diagrams, in the overhead, the top rears are behind the surrounds, and in the side view, the surrounds are behind the top rears.
Yeah, somebody know what they were doing there.
Well, there's an explanation of how that ended up happening.
In this setup, due to the way his room is configured, he cannot place his surrounds at their recommended 110 to 120 degree angle. He could put them basically straight to either side, 90 degrees, or farther behind him, probably closer to 140 degrees, which would be better. The Dolby diagrams have only confused him. I would put them directly to my side rather than 140 behind me. I think I would be more inclined to that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Push comes to shove. That's what I would end up doing. And you are going to have top rears, apparently. So you're going to have
something going on back there for sure. So
you.
Yeah.
So as to why the diagrams look like this, if you pop over and look at the 7.1.4 diagram,
that's the surround back speaker.
You'll notice that the side view is exactly the same, except that it's labeled as surround back instead of as side surround.
Yeah.
So they didn't bother updating the graphic, because what they're worried about in these images are the labels of the angles. Right. So the side view is like really only looking at the elevation angles of the overhead speakers. So they just didn't bother to reposition the graphic of the surround speaker.
The surround should be like basically right on that side corner, the back corner of that couch.
Of that guy's couch, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Where it should be.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the 7.1 diagram, then yeah, now the surrounds are 90 degrees. That's where they are in a 7.1.4 setup. So yeah, push comes to shove, I'd have to move them directly to the sides as opposed to farther back and leaving that big gap between the fronts and the sides.
Yeah. Tom from Prague. So Prague. Cool. Tom has two setups. First, his living room is open. Think of it like a backwards L shape. The vertical part of the L would be his dining room and kitchen, 15 feet wide and 33 feet long. And his living room is the bottom of the L, an additional 16 feet wide by 14 feet long. The ceiling is 10.5 feet throughout. So it's a large space, over 7,000 cubic feet of air. But in his setup, which uses a 65-inch OLED and KEF T-Series on-wall speakers, is more for casual viewing. He needs a good subwoofer. He needs good subwoofer options, and it's really important that they come in a gloss white finish. Have you heard of the SB?
That's how I knew this was coming up, yeah.
Because I just heard of it, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. He could fit the sub the size of a PB1000 in his rear left corner. He could potentially put a second sub on the other side of his couch as well. Would that suffice? I mean, if that's what you can do, that's what you can do.
And
man,
you're saying
these drawings are very hard to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of sketching that's gone on top of this, but I'm like, you need gloss white. You know, a PB1000 can physically fit, but they're not available in a gloss white. Now, it would cost a little bit more, but SB2000s, the footprint is smaller than a PB1000. The output is similar. You're not really giving up any output, and now they come in a gloss white finish.
But he's over in Europe, so I imagine there's a lot more gloss white options than they have here.
From Rel or somebody, most likely.
Yeah, so I mean, that's your limiting factor.
Your
limiting factor is not so much the size or the placement, is just though I want it to be gloss white. So if it were me, I would be looking at, I would literally go to, or just look at websites that sell audio gear, and or go to stores and see what they sell, and just take a note of the subwoofer options, and then go to those websites and just search for gloss white and see what they have, and then make a list, because your list is not going to be long. It's just not.
It won't be long.
So,
but
then from
we
there,
know he's already familiar and considering SVS, and we know they have an option that fits this pretty darn nicely. So
I know. Just understand that we're coming from a place of ignorance, because we don't know exactly what other options are out there. Yes, the option that we've given you will work. Mm-hmm. No, we don't know what else is out there, and potentially could be
less expensive
and work just as well in your, based on conversion rates and pricing and everything else. So it would probably be a good idea for you to do some research on your own, since it's very hard for us to do it, since Google doesn't search that very well from other countries.
Yeah.
So in this dedicated theater, the room is 14.5 feet wide by 19 feet long, with an almost a 9-foot ceiling. But it's not completely closed off from the home gym behind his theater room, so the total air volume is around 3,500 cubic feet. He hid a lot of his acoustic treatments with a ton. He hid a lot of his acoustic treatments with a ton of absorption behind his acoustically transparent false wall up front, lots of bass trapping and absorption within his drop tile ceiling, and his cabinet doors at the back under his projector are diffusers. The right side is a bookcase, and then the rest of the walls are brick, so at least they aren't completely flat. He took our advice and went with a JVC projector and a 120-inch white screen. He's very happy with those, and he's using a Denon X4400H plus 5 monoblock, amps to power.
Comes back to bite you.
Damn it, Rob. You set me up for this one.
Not even on purpose. It was first in, first out, but they lined up just nicely if you're listening in order.
No one needs one except for you, dude. You totally needed it. He's using a Denon X4400H plus 5 monoblock amps to power an 11-speaker setup, all B&W speakers. B&W are harder to drive, but I don't know that you necessarily need monoblocks, but here we are. Man, this picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's just to get a rough idea of the total layout. You've got a couch sort of in the center there, blue marked couch, and then the screen is over to the left. There's the sink at the back, and then on the other side of the sink, which, you know, it actually is a physical wall in this room, but then it's open down a little hallway and that. So he's got a home gym on the other side of that is what's going on in the back there.
Okay, so, and then it looks like there's a, like a, what do you call those? Bay windows? It's like a bay window on the left there.
Over to the left. Yeah, he's got a bay window that's actually on the left-hand side there. You can't really see it in the photos, but it just bulges out to the left of his front left speaker there.
And when we see, I mean, like looking at the drawings that he's given us, there's so many scribbles
so
on it.
much stuff marked up on this diagram.
But when you see the actual pictures, it's hardwood floor, it's brick on the left wall, it's bookshelves on the right. There's a full wall behind them with a walkway. If you were sitting on the couch, it'd be behind you and to the right, which leads back to a small hallway down there.
And then he's got a little home gym that's open up behind that, but he's got a door that closes off the hallway to the rest. And then to his left, just behind his seat, is the exterior door to go outside.
Right. And he's got a whole bunch of gear and everything else.
He does.
He's still in need of subs, he says, but he has space constraints. Either a PC2000 or a PB2000 could fit up front, but either option would need to be lying on its side. Would a 2000 series sub be able to pressurize the space?
Yeah, so we're around 3,500 cubic feet, so the answer would be yes. The 2000 series can handle that.
I mean, I'm just trying to look around this room to see it.
Where else a second sub could go? Because, I mean, well, we just talked about it, but both of them up front could work. I mean, and by the way, placing either a cylinder or the PB2000 on its side is no problem.
Yeah,
That's
those are
absolutely fine to place it on its side. And I would go ported in here, because you're talking about how upstairs you can't pressurize, down here you would like to, and you can, and a 2000 series can get you there. So putting on its side, no problem. 2000 series is the right choice. Ported is the right choice. But yeah, I mean, this is basically his second question. Where does the second sub go? Because he's good with one up front, but where does the second one go? And that is a challenge, because the back of the room, definitely you've got a sink, so you can't just put it there. You can't block the hallway. You can't block the the entry door, the exterior door.
Directly to the left of the couch, if you no longer want to walk around that way as an option. This is going to sound stupid, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but how strong is that whatever it is above that sink?
Okay. You're thinking literally on the countertop?
No, above the sink.
Up where his projector is up there? The cabinets? A sub up there, eh?
I mean, that's literally the only place I see.
I mean, you can even have a cylinder lying itself down sideways, lying across there, up there.
So dumb. It's so dumb. But that is, I looked at that and I'm like, that is where I think you could put it. I mean, he's got a drop tile ceiling, right? So it wouldn't actually have to sit up there. You could suspend it.
Ooh, boy. I mean, my only thought other than that, other than you're like, hey, you could have them both up front below your screen. This is a thing that a lot of people do, and you got fully variable phase, so we can go for that. The other one, it still would be both subs toward the front of the room. It's just maybe to the left and the right, like outside of your front left and right speakers, so like a little bit closer to you than the actual front wall. But they both still be towards the front of the room. They wouldn't be offset the way we would like them to be. We'd like them to be offset if possible. But hey, sometimes you got to deal with reality on reality's terms, and you can't always have things perfectly across the room from each other.
I mean, it looks like the front right you could get away with putting it whatever those looks like garbage cans, silver things. Or
I think those are his monoblocks down there.
Oh, jeez.
I think those are his monoblocks hiding away underneath his shelf there.
Yeah.
So like just in front of the fireplace and to the outside of the front right speaker. That what you mean?
I don't think anything fits there, dude. I hate to say it. I don't think there much fits there.
I mean, I honestly, as much as we just were talking about this in the previous question, I end up leaning towards you're just going to have them both at the front of the room, one on either side.
I lean towards having only a single sub in this setup.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. 2 is still better than 1.
I don't necessarily.
And he has a small seating area. So, you're going to have to do some trial and error with the phase knob, but I'm leaning that way. You're going to end up with them both up front. But
put it up there with your projector.
up top, up on the shelf, suspended from your ceiling.
Cylinder
hang down. Use chains. Make it look real good.
I'm telling you, man, I come up with some stupid ideas, and that might take the but I like it. He'd like our advice and have a second sub at the back of the room, but he has an exterior door in the rear left corner. His sink and cabinet stick up the back wall, and the hallway opening in the rear right corner. There's just in a good place. Oh, I already said. I guess we
that was the second sub stuff. So
yeah, okay.
Yep, that's it.
Keith's basement theater room is roughly 18 by 22 by 8. At the moment, he has it set up to be 22 feet long and 18 feet wide. His staircase is on the right, and smack dab in the middle of the room lengthwise, there's an overhead support beam running side to side, and a support column that comes down in an inconvenient location. To get around that support column, he decided to shift his whole theater setup to the left, so that's all to the left of the support column, but that means his leftmost seat is right up against the wall, as is his front left speaker. And his rightmost seat has a support column right beside it with no space to his left. He's opted to put his surround speakers behind him. He'd like to upgrade to Atmos. He spoke to a couple installers, and they said if he keeps his existing orientation, the support beam running side to side is no big deal. It's basically right above his seats, so top front and top rear speakers will go in front and behind the support beam. But a friend... Dude, can we just stop these people from talking to friends?
Well, in this case, I'm thinking this friend is right, so...
All right, good.
I'm all right with this.
But a friend suggested he rotate his setup 90 degrees so the staircase would be behind him, and the vertical support column would now be smack dab in the middle of the room, widthwise instead of lengthwise, so he could have his 2 recliners on either side of the support column, with the overhead support beam now running down the middle, front to back. If he's using his, he is using his 75-inch Vizio P-Series TV and currently sits about 10 feet away from it. So if he rotates the room, he would now be about 18 feet front to back and 22 feet wide. That should be enough for a full 7.2.4 configuration, correct? But would the overhead support beam bisecting the ceiling right in between his seats be a problem for his overhead Atmos speakers? He'd have to rewire everything, so we must make sure it would be really worth it. Just overhead right smack dab in the middle? That doesn't make any difference. No speakers go there, unless you're going to do Voice of God.
That's right.
For Oro 3D, that's the only thing.
When top front, top rear was okay,
yeah.
Left and right, having that support beam in the middle of it, it's not a big deal. You're still going to get the sense, like let's say you're in the leftmost seat, listening to the top front right speaker, which is on the other side of the support beam overhead from you. You're still going to get the sense that the sound is above and to your right, which is really all we need. So that's still fine. I'm not worried about the Atmos at all, and I think that configuration makes a lot more sense than this because, I mean, right now you've got really compromised placement for that front left speaker, and you can't put your surrounds where they really ought to go. This room is 18 feet at the moment left to right. It'll become 18 feet front to back if you rotate everything 90 degrees.
You could still sit 10. Well, I mean, if he's going to be sitting smack dab in the middle of the room, though, he's going to be sitting closer to his screen than he's used to.
But it's a 75-inch screen, and you're 10 feet away right now. I'm like, I would like to sit a little closer than that to a 75-inch screen. Yeah. You'll still have, either way, even if you are still 10 feet away from the screen, you still got 8 feet behind you, which is plenty to have surround backs behind you.
You know what I would do? I would totally put like cup holders on that support beam on either side. I would totally do that. Just put a cup holder right there, a little shelf for all the remotes and stuff on either side, so you can choose either side. I mean, the money seat is the pole, but
it is. Yes, that's actually measurement position 1 will be a foot in front of that support column. You got to keep that in mind. But I mean, he already has his 2 recliners separated, so this is not changing what he's used to as far as where you're sitting. They're just going to be separated by the support column now instead of a little table, or you can still have a little table there. So I'm in favor of this idea of having the room being wider than it is long, but that
finally a friend who was right. Was it one of us?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and now you can have your surround speakers actually to your sides. Yeah.
So all of his speakers are Swan Diva series. I mean, do they still make those?
I don't know.
They still make Swans.
I think they're still sold somewhere. Yeah, I would swear I've seen Swan. So, you know who sells Swan still? I'm not even going to say
AV123.
Well, no, the other company that has changed its name a bunch of times. That I'm not even going to say, because if we say them out loud, then all of their weirdo fans will come here. And
I call people idiots, and you call them weirdos, and I'm the bad guy.
They can't leave comments anymore on YouTube, so maybe that's fine. Yeah, Chain or Chaser. I don't even know what they're called anymore. Who knows? Whoever they are, that's them. They sell Swan still.
All right. He's thinking he'd like to upgrade his front 3 and was considering Walsh 2000 front left and right with clips reference 3 center. Any thoughts? Why?
I'm not sure how you arrived at that. That is a.
Do you already have the clips? Is that the deal? I mean,
I don't
maybe
think
he
so.
already has the clips. I don't know. I wouldn't do this.
I mean, if you want to get 3 clips up front, sure. Make sure you like their sound.
I don't know anything about the Walsh speakers.
I'm not super familiar. They look like they're one of those omnidirectional design thingies.
All right, I'm clicking on it. We'll see.
Yeah, I am not super familiar with those ones. But no, I wouldn't do this mixing between the ohms and the clipshes. I'd go with 3 of one or 3 of the other if you're going to do this. I'm not sure how these are the speakers you landed on.
Maybe he wants a high output center channel, and then
sure,
for some reason likes these Walshes and wants those.
But I mean, I'm thinking right now, if you're like, I don't super duper love the sound quality I'm hearing right now, I'm like, well, that's a lot of room acoustics and a lot of everything being slammed against the left wall right now. That to me is like why maybe things aren't sounding as good as you would hope they would. I'm not necessarily ready to blame your speakers right now. And I think if you did the rotating of the room 90 degrees, definitely listen to your existing speakers first, because you might just discover, and you know what, get some room treatments in here too, because this looks like a room that could echo.
What is the deal with this speaker? It's just I
know.
What is this
speaker? It's weird. I'm like, how did you arrive at those? As being the choice?
Where are the drivers? Is there just one up top?
They're in the sock there.
You can't. They have no pictures of the actual drivers that I can find.
I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know about those ohm ones. Yeah, I would rotate it. I would go through the rewiring because I'm not worried about your Atmos speaker placement. I would have a listen to your existing speakers, and I would acoustically treat this room then
I would decide whether or not I wanted to buy new speakers, and then I would not buy either of the things that you suggested.
New speakers. But
I definitely wouldn't buy these ohm Walshes things.
But I could potentially back, replacing with clipshes, because that is going to be definitely a new experience that, if you like it, that could really float your boat.
Yeah, and okay, so I don't think I've heard the ohms before. I think that I've heard speakers like them, the omnidirectional coming out of all the sides and stuff.
Yeah, like Mirage used to be like that.
Yeah, and I've never been super impressed with that design, but if there's some reason why you really like them, I would still highly recommend that you get your room set up first.
Yes.
And then bring them in and see how they sound in your room. Because these are going to be highly affected by the room they're in. Highly affected. Yeah. So don't just trust that you heard them once at a dealer and they sound
regardless,
great.
I wouldn't be pairing them up with a Clips reference 3 center. That's
100. He's probably going with the Clips reference because I mean I don't know why he landed on Clips, but I don't think Alm makes a center channel. So there's not, that. Right. That's
well, they
why
said how they can modify it into being a center. So that sounds like a thing.
Lying on the side, I guess.
They make it shorter and fatter, I guess.
Whatever. It's stupid. Chris wants to improve the acoustics of his bedroom setup. This is a setup where, because Chris is visually impaired, he has a TV right beside his bed with the center directly below the TV and exceedingly close to where his head goes on the pillow. His front right speaker smooshed into the corner just above where he lays his head, and his front left speaker down by his feet. This is the one where I said I thought you should get headphones, I think.
Yeah.
But his right corner houses a dresser with his surround right speaker on its top, and his rear left corner is where the door is located. Okay. He is using a BIC F12 sub that's on the floor just to the left of the TV stand, even though he only has one listening location and one sub. He's finding the bass response uneven. Well, that's welcome to acoustics.
Yeah.
And he's wondering if acoustic
room all smushed together, so not
he's
much
wondering if
choice going
acoustic
on.
treatments could help. He wants to keep the price very low, under $100 total if possible, and he formed a plan based on using foam treatments sold on Amazon with a couple of 24 packs of square acoustic foam wedges placed in the corners that reflection points improve his listening experience. Do we have an alternate suggestion that won't cost more money? No.
Do not buy the foam.
Don't buy the foam.
We mentioned in a previous question, the foam is really not very effective, full stop, so don't...
Since you are so close to the sub, can you
your
just
money.
reach down? It probably doesn't have a variable phase knob, does it?
Not on the BIC, and not a fully variable phase knob, no.
So, acoustically, as far as acoustic treatments to treat this bass in this room, there is nothing that you can do.
It would have to be so much and so thick that you really wouldn't have anywhere else
Room
for
for it.
anything else
I mean,
anymore.
really, if you had one big problem area, you could theoretically buy a tuned trap that would fix that
one particular
thing,
bad frequency.
But unfortunately, without knowing what that is, it's impossible. So
and those are like sometimes over a foot thick themselves.
Yeah.
And where would it go? But I mean, definitely don't do the foam thing. It's not going to help what you're describing at all. And it would just be a waste of your money. So don't get the foam.
Without doing nothing else,
Yeah.
spending no money, my only suggestion that I can think of off the top of my head here is to go into your receiver settings and change the distance on your sub as you're listening to sweeps.
Which is a lot of trial and error because it doesn't keep playing while you make that change.
Yeah.
You got to change, come back, change, come back.
But I mean, without having a variable phase knob, this is how you can kind of manually adjust the phase.
Yeah.
This is not going to be an easy process or a quick process. The only other option is to buy something like a
miniDSP.
miniDSP.
Yeah, spend your $100 on that instead. Yeah, that's more likely to help you than the foam.
Oh yeah, but it's still. Do not expect a perfectly even.
No,
bass
you're
response.
working with tremendous compromises here. I mean, you've done the best you can. There's nothing really here that you can change. There's nowhere else to put this thing. You're not going to have two of these big subs in this room, and even if you did, it probably still wouldn't help that much given all the placement restrictions.
Yeah.
But the foam is doing you nothing, so don't spend your money there. If you're going to spend $100 anywhere, it would be on a miniDSP to hopefully allow you to better EQ and adjust the phase of this sub to give you a little bit more linear response. Alongo
would like a suggestion for some $50 to $75 Bluetooth earbuds for everyday listening, but not the RBH EPSBs. He already owns those. In fact, he's owned 3 pairs of different RBH headphones. Lost one died out of warranty, and he doesn't want anything. And he doesn't have anything against RBH. He just like to try something different at this point. Is all. He'll be Bluetooth pairing them with his iPhone. What do we recommend? I mean, the only 2 headphones I ever recommend when it comes to Bluetooth is RBH and Shure, so that I can think of off the top of my head.
So Shure has an option. They've got their SE112s. Now, I like the 215s that much more, but they're well over this price point for the wireless Bluetooth version. So the SE112s are like, on Amazon, I think they're about $70 or $80. So they're right in this ballpark for those ones. So I could definitely say, give those a try. Also, RHA. Kind of funny because we're RBH, but this is RHA.
Right. RHA, I have listened to a lot of their headphones, and as far as frequency response and stuff like that, they can be a little all over the place.
They can, From model to model, it's not always consistent with them.
They do tend to be bass heavy. Ish.
Which a lot of people like.
On the general, which is fine. But I use their headphones I have a pair of their headphones that I use in the regular, and they are very bass heavy, the ones I have. But they're decent headphones, so I would have no problem with that. Just know what you're getting yourself into.
Sure, yeah. I'm just saying, if I would have pointed you to RBH, but he's already given those a try. He just wants to try something new. I'm like, well,
I understand that.
RHA fits the bill and would be something new for you to try. So the ones in this price range would be, I'm trying to look it up here. I can't find it off the top of my head here, but yeah, you can look at their lineup. It'll be MA320s, I think.
All right.
Something like that.
Let's do one more in the 2 minutes we have left here. Ian would like to use a 160-inch projection screen. He knows we like the performance of the JVC X790 for around $4,000, but can it handle a screen that large? The Epson 5040 UB is now down to $2,000, and it claims a higher lumen output than the JVC. What would we recommend? I don't know.
So if you want to be like really technical, then like technically the JVC could illuminate a 160-inch screen for SDR. Forget HDR, that's out the window. But for SDR it could, but you'd be in the high lamp mode to do it. And it's I mean, I'm not gung-ho about that. Now, the 5040 UB, okay, that's going all the way down to half the price. It does have the light output because actually if you go into its bright cinema mode, which, okay, you're not getting the widest color anymore, but in its bright cinema mode, it can legitimately put out about 2400 lumens, like calibrated, accurate color. That would be in the high lamp mode. If you bring it down to its low lamp mode, it's about as bright as the JVC in its high lamp mode. Yeah, so the Epson definitely does have color accurate extra lumens to illuminate the screen, and I would lean that way. But I would say, what if we landed right in the middle price point wise? And you know what just dropped in price from $3,000 MSRP? The 5050 UB that just came out. It's $2,800 now. How quick was that? It hasn't reached the $2,700 that I predicted, but it's also been, a week? So
give it time, Rob. Give it time.
$2,800 can get you the 5050 UB right now. Now, annoyingly, it still doesn't automatically go into HDR mode when you play HDR. You have to manually put it into stupid HDR picture mode. I have no idea how Sony and Epson are screwing this type of stuff up with the auto detection, but
surely they can firmware fix this stuff.
You would think. But the 5040 UB has been out for ages and they never did. But at least the 5050 UB gets you the full 18 gigabits per second HDMI inputs. It's still got the light output superiority over the JVC, and the price is definitely lower. It's not half the price, but it's $2,800 versus about $3,800, so it's still $1,000 less. But mainly it's the light output, and I would recommend the 5050 UB to you for a 160-inch screen.
That's fine. All right, so what do we got left?
All right, so Anaheim Josh is back. Guess who? Bobby is also back. We haven't talked to Bobby in a while, but he is back. Adam G, Mark S, and that is it for our list. We will answer all of you gentlemen next week.
I'll have to scroll down and see if Josh is mad at me or not, because
he is. Oh, should I spoil it?
Go ahead, spoil it.
He is not. He and his wife got a kick out of it, so they're all good with us.
Good.
Yeah, good.
I just couldn't help myself, man. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm like a dog with a bone. You put something, you dangle that low hanging fruit. I'm just gonna have to take a swing at it. All right, so let's thank our listeners of the week. When I thank Yanya, what I'm saying wrong? Yanya. Okay, so what is his name?
We've said it a bunch of times.
Dude, you all understand? There's a climber named Jainan Kim. She's a climber, and she spells her name Jain. That's how they spell her name. So I look at that and I say Jainan. No matter what, that's what I say, because I've been looking at that name for 6 years now, watching this girl climb, and it's messing with me.
This is Jainan.
Jainan, thank you, Jesus. Jainan, Patricio, Terry, and Thomas for their donations at their PayPal donations. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, Jainan, Patricio, Terry, and Thomas. Thank you very much for donating to us on PayPal. We appreciate that.
We want to thank our 81 patrons over at patreon.com, including Alongo, who increased his monthly contribution.
Yeah, that's right. He let us know about it, so thank you, Alongo, for doing that. That's patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up for an automatic monthly donation. And thanks very much to our 80 other patrons over there as well.
And thank you, Dan, for the Amazon gift cards, which currently Rob is hoarding.
Yes. I'm holding him hostage over here in Canada land.
Ooh, you know how passive aggressive they are over there. It's gonna make me be nice to somebody.
You know what? You
before
guys
he gives it to me.
These were $25 Amazon.ca gift cards, and you guys are each getting $20. I'm losing on the exchange rate. That's how that works.
All right, and we want to thank Miguel and Tom for talking us up to Parts Express and AV Science, respectively.
Yes, Dan, thank you for those gift cards. Miguel, thanks for talking us up to Parts Express. Congrats on that SPL meter purchase. And Tom, thanks for talking us up to AV Science. And huge congrats on your RS540 purchase. Very, very nice.
For AV Rant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AV Rant.
Now go out and listen to something.